It is a counselor to not be.
Microphones are unmuted. Sorry. May I ask that again?
Give Jackie a chance to get her seat and then we'll get started.
So, I got it. I think
Are you ready for us? All right, I'd like to call this meeting to order. Welcome to Sunnyside City Council study session for today, Monday, May 5, 2025. For the record, all members of council are present, as are indicated staff members, with the exception of Fire Chief Hobrick, who is absent this evening. You'll notice there's been a bit of a seating change, council. The manager wants to try something different. This way he can get a better look at all of council during a meeting. And so we'll see how that works for him. I think I'm going to miss being able to consult with him during the meeting, but at the same time, I think that does equalize it for all of us council members to be able to get a look at the manager and speak directly to him if we need to. A couple of housekeeping items. First one is, I do want to remind council that during the period of time when you're asking questions or comments after a presentation, to please limit your questions or comments to one. When you get your answer, please surrender the floor to other council members. The chair will call upon everybody whose hand is up. If there are no other questions or comments, then the chair will return back to you. But please, I kind of let things get a little bit out of control last time, and that was 100% on me. But I'm just gonna remind people that that's how that's supposed to go. Also, I do want to commend everyone on council. Last year, we had a really intense training session where we talked about emails to everyone and reply all and that sort of stuff. And over the weekend, there were a series of emails that were addressed to all of council, and I didn't see anybody hit reply all on all of that. So that was commendable. Well done. Thank you for that, because we really wish to not create an illegal meeting. And that's what we're doing if we're replying to emails. And I didn't see any of that. So normally emails to all of council will be filtered through either the manager or the city clerk. Every once in a while, some of us have to send an email out to all the council, but that's typically not the norm. The channel is typically going to be through the manager. And then one more thing, just as housekeeping, I know there's been some comment on the claim vouchers and that sort of thing that haven't been appearing on the agenda or didn't appear on the agenda the last meeting. I had a brilliant conversation with Kelly this afternoon. She's got some ideas that she'll be sharing with the finance committee this week, and we can look forward to a slightly new format, and I think it'll be easier for us to understand. So we can look forward to that. But there's going to be a lot of claim vouchers to read through on before Monday night, so be prepared for that little adventure. All right. Then we don't have an agenda approval item, but we do need to change it. So we're going to get some approval from that. First thing, Kelly has asked that the item forensic audit, item E, be pulled and saved for a later date. She is unable to get all the information together for tonight to prepare a presentation of the quality that she would like. So if there's no objection. All right.
Mayor, I don't have an objection to that, but I would like to allow public comment tonight. So I want to suspend the rules to allow public comment. We got a full house. I think it's incumbent upon us.
Okay, we'll get to that in just a second,
Okay.
Counselor.
Okay.
The other item is we have an executive session scheduled for the end, and there's two items on that executive session. And manager has asked that the first part, the one considering the minimum price at which real estate will be offered for sale or lease when public knowledge regarding such consideration would cause a likelihood, et cetera. If we could move that to the beginning, because our realtors are here this evening, and rather than having them sit through 3 hours of meeting, we can allow them to be in the executive session at the very beginning, and then they can leave. And then the next section of the executive session will occur at the end, and we can take our time on that one and don't have to feel quite as rushed. Is there objection to that?
I
No
object.
objection.
I object.
Okay, we have an objection. So what we're going to do then, we're going to vote on that just to make sure that we're all. Can I get a motion on that?
I
Make a motion to, what was the question?
To change the first portion of the
First
executive
portion
session.
of the executive session to the beginning of the meeting.
I have an objection.
And
This is a
also the
point of
second, the
order.
second.
Okay, let's,
Excuse me.
I'm asking for a motion here,
Make a
or desire of
motion.
council. And
And so I'm the one objecting.
And I will give you a second, Counselor, after, if the motion gets a second, then you will have an opportunity to discuss.
Okay.
Okay, there's always a time for debate after a motion and a second. All right, do I have a second for Counselor Hart's motion?
I'll second.
All right, we have a motion to split the executive session in two, made by Counselor Hart, second by Deputy Mayor. Debate on this item, Counselor Hancock.
We've discussed this. We discussed it at the last meeting, that we got to quit putting the citizens last, and people who are doing business with the city of Sunnyside are gaining from that. And we don't need this to be always putting the citizens out in the hallway while we have executive session. I completely disagree with doing this before, when we've got a whole room full of people here, and I'm sure Mr. Bowlesby would be glad to wait.
Well, I had this request from the manager that we amend the agenda to do this, and I'm bringing this forth to council
Okay.
for the reason of, because we've got two individuals who've come here specifically to talk to council about a particular item that's before council. And so,
And just so council understands
Yes, ma'am.
that this is not the city manager's executive session. This is council's executive session. And council makes that decision when we have our executive session and what we're going to talk about,
Thank you.
not the city manager.
it was a request from the manager, it was not a decision. Thank you, Counselor. Counselor Hart.
Yes, I think that in lieu of the fact that we talked about at the last, previous to the last executive session, that the gentleman in question has a little bit further to drive and is probably not going to amount to more than what, 15 minutes?
That's what we're asking for.
Then I see no reason to not allow his portion of this executive session to go forward.
Call for the question.
All right, we have a call for the question. And I'm just going to go, yes.
I have a question.
Okay, but the question's been called, so that kind of ends discussion. I'm sorry, Counselor.
Yeah.
All right,
Did we mentioned that the time it would take? Sorry.
15 minutes is what they're asking
Call for
for.
the question.
Hang on just a second, Counselor. I'm just writing my, this is not on the agenda, so. All right. And so Counselor Hancock, yes or no?
No.
Counselor Vasquez?
Yes.
Counselor Ripley?
No.
Counselor Frausto?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor?
Yes.
Counselor Hart?
Yes.
I too vote yes. Opinion of the chair, the motion passes. 5-2.
And
All right.
Mr. Mayor, if I may, I know the question's been called and it's been voted on, but I do want to distinguish the reason, and I totally know that the decision is in council's hands. The reason I asked the last time is because we had a lawyer hanging on for several hours. You know, they charge $200 an hour. So, you know, I should have been more clear coming out of that particular executive session to have it at the beginning. But yes, because one of the realtors is coming from Tri-Cities. That's the reason I thought the public should know. So thank you.
Thank you, sir. All right, so we will go into executive session.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, ma'am.
We haven't decided. We're going to kick the public out of here. Are we going to let them speak after we come back? from-
All right, you are correct, Counselor. Sorry, I jumped right over that. We have a request for public comment this evening. Council, comments on this? We would need to suspend the rules in order for that to happen. Yeah, Counselor Hart.
I think in lieu of the fact that I'm not entirely sure why we're having public comment during our work study programs. The work study programs are for those people who are making presentations to us about what kind of business we're going to be doing, as whether it's talking about an intersection or we're talking about some executive board discussion. This is all just discussion, and I don't think at this time is necessary for public comment, no offense to the public, but I think when it comes back to the regular meeting, when we will be discussing this next council meeting next week, would be a more appropriate time for them to have knowledge of what we've been talking about and then come back forth with their public comment.
Thank you, Counselor. Other comments on this? Mr. Deputy Mayor.
I'm all about hearing out the public, so let the public speak.
And I agree with Deputy Mayor.
Okay.
You too.
Other comments on that?
I agree with Deputy Mayor.
Okay, well, it seems like there's enough of a division here that we're going to ask for what is the desire of council on this item, and we're just going to have a vote on it. So do I have a motion?
I move to allow public comment.
Second.
All right, we've got a motion by Councilor Hancock, second by the deputy mayor to allow public comment this evening, suspend the rules. And we'll go down the line and vote again. Councilor Hancock?
Yes.
Counselor, I'm sorry, debate?
Just debate. Yes, I
Sorry.
would like to just debate that point. Is the actual purpose of the suspension of rules? Somebody explain to me why we have to suspend the rules for this? Because I don't think that we need to be suspending rules for public comment at a work study program.
Call for the question, Mayor.
Suspending the rules.
We should have a parliamentarian here who can answer that question for us. And I'm hoping that our legal man.
Quinn, are you able to answer that question for
I can try. I think so because you have council bylaws where you've established your own procedures. So that's sort of the rules that you've agreed on to govern. And so if you want to do something different than what's in those bylaws, that's when you would suspend the rules.
Okay,
I don't have the bylaws in front of me. I apologize, but that's normally why you would suspend.
okay.
Well,
So, thank you. We have called the question. Counselor Hancock, your vote again?
Yes.
Counselor Vasquez?
Yes.
Counselor Ripley?
Yes.
Counselor Frausto?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor?
Yes.
Counselor Hart?
No,
And I too vote yes. Motion passes. We will allow for public comment. All right.
we do that after.
We will,
We could do it after, because
After
we don't have a
executive
sign-up
session?
sheet.
we don't have a sign-up sheet out or any of that. We can do that after the executive session. So at this time, we will go into executive session pursuant to RCW 42.30.1101C to consider the minimum price at which real estate will be offered for sale or lease when public knowledge regarding such consideration would cause a likelihood of decreased price. However, final action, selling or leasing public property shall be taken in a meeting open to the public. All right, so for an executive session, we have to ask the public to step out at this point and those not involved in the discussion. Sorry for the inconvenience. It is my wish that we would be able to have chairs outside for everyone, but we don't have the space for that, so apologies.
Oh, right here.
Oh, good, good. Will you take it outside to those people? Thank you, Rob.
Yeah,
Wait on that.
we're not gonna do that tonight. It's just. Sir,
Oh, get a pen, Rob. A pen.
yes, and
Oh, okay.
talk to the manager. He'll find out if you're,
This is a different.
This
That's a
is-
different
this
one.
is a different thing.
You're good.
sorry, Johnny.
Want to make sure it's the right property.
Trying to keep up with everything that's going on here tonight. It's a lot of changes.
Recording paused.
Thank you, Jackie. Mr. Mayor, this again is the council's executive session. I think only people that need to be in this room should be in this room. And that would be our attorney. The city manager can stay, but he doesn't have to be here. Jafet certainly.
Microphones are unmuted. We're ready.
Okay. All right, we are back in open session. Thank you, everyone, for your patience and for sticking around. No action was taken. All right, next item, the council voted on public comment, so we will be doing public comment this evening. We have 6 names on the list, but Chief is not sure he got to everybody. So if there is an extra name or somebody afterwards who would like to speak, I will open up opportunities for people to speak afterwards if you are interested in speaking and you haven't been able to speak your mind. All right. First name on my list is Tom Dolan. I do want to, before you come up or before you start speaking, Mr. You can come up. Just remind council or audience members that you need to please limit your comments to 3 minutes. As you approach the microphone, state your name and city of residence. We don't need your street address. And go ahead and tell us what you have to say.
Good evening. My name is Tom Dolan. I am a resident of Sunnyside for a long time. I wanted to be the first one to thank Vicky Ripley for pushing that item onto the agenda tonight. I like it. We've been asking for a long time for a forensic audit and like to ask again tonight. So thank you very much.
Thanks, sir. Jim Stevens.
Jim Stevens, Sunnyside, Washington. First of all, I'd like to, Teresa Hancock made a good point. And I think it's, love you all, but it's incredibly rude and inconsiderate to have people come in here and they bust themselves, get out of work, whatever, to get down here at 6 o'clock and find out the meeting is adjourned until 15 or 20 minutes later, whatever. Easy solution is when you post it, meeting starts at 6:15 tonight, or the meeting starts at 6:20. And then people will come at that time and these folks don't have to have a late, long drive home and nobody's upset because they came down here early. The other point is the forensic file audit. It's necessary. Not to beat a dead horse. It should have been done a long time ago. There's some things going on there that absolutely, emphatically need to be addressed. If we're running a business, I got to tell you, this would have been done and should be done. And I can't imagine an executive in a successful business that would allow this to go on and not taking action on it. So I applaud you all for taking a look at this tonight, and hopefully this will move ahead and we'll find out some things that should have been uncovered some time ago. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Next name on my list, Britton Moore.
Good evening, everyone. If I could just get this passed out to you before my time starts, that would be really great. I've got one for Mike, and if you want to share with Kelly, and the rest goes to the council members.
Okay.
Shall we tell them the audit? They knew, they heard it.
Thank you.
So, Britton Moore from Sunnyside, Washington. I want to thank you all for letting us speak tonight. Very much appreciate the time. Vicky Ripley, thank you for adding this to the agenda. I just have a very small smattering of questionable purchases. We've spent a couple of years looking over things, and I'll go over this page by page with you. I know that a lot of this is going to seem like small, petty little things, but I will tell you, being a business owner since I was 21 years old, you can nickel and dime yourself right out of business. You can embezzle yourself into having no money, which is basically what's happened. This first receipt here, this is listed under City Hall. Items purchased for City Hall. I don't know that you need a lime squeeze and a lemon squeeze. That's a little redundant. Tool set, brushes, stuff for City Hall. I mean, I know you guys need a kitchen, but this is excessive. $738. Next page. In years past, when we had Cinco de Mayo bands, they need to eat, they need to drink. We would pre-purchase tickets from the food booths for them so they could go and eat at their leisure. We didn't buy them groceries so that they were this, and not to mention that this is not the current administration. This receipt is from 2023. You can see here. And by the way, all of 2023, some of 24 and 22, the past city manager spent the money and approved her own receipts. You can see the stamp on here. Who approved it and who spent it? Okay, so in past the bands, we would buy them food tickets so they could buy food at their own leisure. We would buy them groceries. This particular receipt, there is no bottom of the receipt. We don't know how much was spent. Okay, third page. This was for Festival of Tree supplies, and you can see again it was stamped by the city manager. And this is not enough to feed people at the Festival of Trees. This is beef jerky and Triscuits and sausage. I don't think that that's what they fed people at Festival of Trees. Next page. Again, I know this seems petty, but we're talking about hundreds of receipts just like this, okay? Tractor Supply. This was for Festival of Trees. There's 3 items here for $36.97. Why did we need animal supplies for Festival of Trees? And just 3 of them. Next item, again, approved by city manager and her own purchase. Walmart, Festival of Trees. Nintendo. Why do we need Nintendo for Festival of Trees? Toddler toys. Why? It makes no sense. Someone explain that to me. Next page. First class tickets to Alaska, $1,500.45. Boy, my money went for someone to fly first class. Do you know how mad that makes me? And there's no proof of this getting paid back to the city. You think I'm not mad? I am mad. Next page. Finance Department, decorations for Valentine's Day. For the finance holiday decor.
Okay, your time has run out.
I'd like a couple minutes. That's all I need. I think I deserve it.
No objection.
I object.
Okay, well, give you a couple minutes more.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Finance Department, decorations for Valentine's Day. Do we need to decorate for Valentine's Day? Are we, for the Finance Department? Odd. I find that very odd. Again, approved by her own purchase. Next page. A Walmart purchase. There was no receipt in this batch. Again, proved. And that authorization, this is 2023. I don't know who authorized that. That signatures, I don't know, recognize it. So if someone knows that, you can let me know. I could be misleading on that. Next page. There was an upgrade to the QR code subscriptions for European currency. And it was also in 2022 as well. I don't know that we're accepting a lot of European money, but correct me again if I'm wrong. I looked into the other receipts with this, and maybe I am wrong, but it just seems very odd. Again, I could give you dozens and dozens of examples. I think there was one last page. Yes, a purchase at Safeway for $1,329.27. No receipt for that whatsoever. Again, this is just a few, but I want to point out that self-auditing is really not a thing. You're supposed to have people approve your purchases, if not council or in a budget. How many lawsuits or settlements did not go through council from the past administration that got paid off? A missing drone from the planning department. The planning department bought a drone. It's missing. It's gone. Can't find it anywhere. No purchase order plans were in place. There were several accounting trips that our past finance director went on. She went to an auditing convention for the tune of $659 a night at the MGM Grand. I asked several personal accountants here in town what they would get out of an auditing convention if they weren't a certified accountant. They said absolutely nothing. In order to go to an auditing convention, you really need to know accounting. I know that I think Kelly has taught herself. I think Deb Zabel had taught herself some of that Springbrook. Jameson didn't teach herself at all. She didn't teach anything. She didn't do anything for 8 months. From January to August, she did nothing.
I would ask that you refer to the former employees by their title, not by their name.
Well, I didn't want to do that because you told me not to do it in the past. So yes, Jameson Horner did not.
I've asked you not to refer to them by name. Refer to them.
I didn't. I referred to her by her title.
No, you referred to her by name. I would ask that you.
Did I?
refer
I'm
as the
sorry. I
finance
apologize.
director.
I
Okay.
strike my name calling.
And thank you. And your time has expired. I do appreciate this, and definitely we'll be looking through this. And I am certain that we will point this out to our auditors, and the auditors, when they look through it, will definitely have some questions. So I thank you for that. Next name on my list is Sharon Dolan. Three.
Good evening. I'm Sharon Dolan from Sunnyside. And I would like to thank Vicki Ripley and council for finally adding the discussion for a forensic audit to the agenda. I hope, we're going to be out of town, so I hope when Kelly gets done with her report that we're around to hear it. But we'll be checking with the agenda just so we can watch it online. Our group, in our research, we found that former administration was spending and approving their own spending, as Britton just said. Some examples also that she didn't mention are meetings with food, a baby shower where City Hall was closed for the afternoon, parties, gifts, and thousands spent on the Festival of Trees, all on the city's dime. These are our tax dollars. Are these cases of gifting of public funds? We have invoices and receipts that show this spending. Some of our council members have seen these receipts. Council, have you, since the past administration, gone over the spending policies and procedures? Have you reviewed them? What are our current procedures and policies in regards to spending? Have you reviewed the SMCs that were changed by past administration regarding spending policy? These must be reviewed by all of you. I believe an in-depth forensic audit will put the last 3 years to rest. More importantly, it might shine light onto deficiencies in our fiscal policy. We, the residents of Sunnyside, and you as our representatives, need to make sure this doesn't happen again. Bring back the trust we should have in our city government. Thank you.
Thank you. The next name is Ruby Medina.
Good evening. I'm here to talk again about the animal control situation and issues here in the city of Sunnyside. We definitely need an animal control officer. The animal control officer needs to be commissioned. And I've been speaking to several different animal control officers throughout Benton, Franklin County. They have such a great, amazing way of how they've been addressing animal control and have been issuing citations. I mean, just alone and doing some research, we have city ordinances in place, animal at large. There's an ordinance. It is unlawful for any domestic animal to be at large off the owner's property without proper restraint. I'm one of the moderators, administrators for What's Up Sunnyside, also too for the Laura Valley Lost Page in Sunnyside. I don't know how many dogs are reported out and about off their property. We get owners later who come and say after 10 days, 15 days, oh, that's my dog. They always wander off the property and then they come back. This time they didn't come back. But it's like, what the message for this community needs to be that this isn't going to be accepted. This is not supposed to be tolerated. I just feel like there's a mockery of our ordinances, you know, the laws that are supposed to be in place and supposed to be, you know, enforced, and it doesn't happen. There's been several times where I have passed by people's property because I've been called by neighbors and saying, hey, this dog's neglected, severely emaciated, it's chained up, doesn't have proper housing. I call Sunnyside PD, and I understand we don't have an animal control officer, but I would like just to have a report, just a report. That way there's documentation, so when there is that animal control officer, they can have these follow-ups. But when I call dispatch, they don't take a report. I'm not followed up with. I think something minimally should be happening to protect our resources and rescues. Again, I still have lots of rescues who have been helping me. I've been picking up 10 to 15 dogs from Sunnyside, calling Sunnyside PD dispatch. They said there's no way to take a report. I'm doing my due diligence and the dog's off to safety. But these dogs have a lot of issues. Health issues. I mean, my resources, the animal rescues are paying for these dogs to get the vet care. I just picked up a Maltese mix and took it to the vet. The vet thought it was shot. It was shot at. Come to find out that the skull was penetrated from an ice pick. So, I mean, these are people that are out here abusing animals, and there's an ordinance on that too. There's an ordinance on failure to register or license dogs and cats. The civil infraction is $50, $100 for a repeated offender. Kennel license required for more than 4 dogs, $250 fine for a civil infraction, animal cruelty, abuse. There's ordinances on that too.
I'm sorry, Ms. Medina, to interrupt, but your time has expired, so
Can I just finish this last
you may.
piece?
I just wanted to be.
Thank you. No, I appreciate it. It's just, we have laws in place. We have ordinances. We need our animal control officer. We need the community to know that we do not stand for abuse, neglect. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, the next name on my list, Johnny. Sorry, Johnny, you didn't write your last name.
Hello, my name is Juan. I started Johnny's Quality Exteriors. We're here to talk, and this is Jaime Godino. We're here to talk about the property located at 70 Raid Road, which is located next to RC's. This has been the person that has been renting that place and was also on a rental to purchase agreement last time before the city of Sunnyside bought it. The price that he was going to buy it for was $400,000 from the previous owner, but the city of Sunnyside offered $500,000, which is $100,000 more without telling him, and Sunnyside bought it. This time around, we were told, we went over to the city manager, Mrs. Alba. She told us that to keep running the place and that we will be the first to know when you guys were going to sell it. What they told us is that we're going to do a new police station there. Afterwards, we found out it was a pet sanctuary that was going to go there, something like that, to that nature. Anyways, we found out that the property was going to be put on for sale by Mr. Gonzalez. And when the realtor went there, we asked them to exclude us from whatever price they were going to put it on, with that we will pay whatever the appraisal came in at. So that way the city manager will keep the money instead of giving that percentage to the realtor. He wasn't very happy with that, but we asked that, that we respect that. We also asked that Mr. Mike Gonzalez, but Mr. Mike Gonzalez was in a hurry. So he left the realtor there. The realtor was not happy over that. So that is the offer. We do have the money. We do have the lender to come and pay it. We can't give right away if the city asks for $10,000 as earnest money. Give us whatever time it takes, 3 months or whatever it takes to close this deal. We have everything ready and closing for that property there. And we have been the ones that fixed it up. We invested over $80,000 in that property to make it look nice. And that's the reason it's getting more money as it is right now. I just found out that right now that it's also been surplused. I think it's now at $625,000. But if you go and add all of the money that the realtor keeps, that's the reason it went up. So they could keep some money, but we wanted to see if the city would take whatever that property was appraised at. So that way the city keeps more money.
All right. Thank you. Just for your information, council hasn't had a meeting on that property yet.
Okay.
We talked about surplusing it and we approved that, but we have not had any meetings on any offers or prices or anything like that. So we're not sure what the appraisal come in at, and we're not sure what the realtor is expecting, and we're not sure what the contract with the realtor says. So to be able to give you an answer right now is not something that we can do, but definitely we have all heard you, and I think definitely we want to see what we can do. I know you came up as an interested party, and so if you are interested, we definitely want to try to accommodate that if it's possible. So
Would I be excluded out of the realtor section, just out of the realtor?
I'm not sure what the legality of that is on a real estate transaction. If we'll have to look at that. And so, yeah, time is up, but
Thank you, sir.
you can either contact me or Mr. Gonzalez, and we'll be happy to chat with you on that and go a little further. Thanks, Johnny.
Yeah, great evening. Thank you.
Thanks.
All right. So that was every name on my list for public comment. Do we have anybody else who is needing to make a public comment this evening? No. Okay. All right, everybody, thank you for your comments. It is not normal procedure to have public comment on a study session, but when we do, your comments are valued. We learn so much about what you are thinking when you present to us, and so I appreciate that. Next item on our agenda, under discussion items, a Law Day presentation. To receive a presentation regarding Law Day, Mr. City Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So today, like you mentioned, is Law Day. So Law Day was first established by President Dwight D. Eisenhower in 1958. It's a national day set aside to reflect the rule of law and its foundational importance to our democracy. So we want to extend our sincere thanks to Judge Lee, who's here today, Court Administrator Vanessa Enquist, who's just a wonderful pro and wonderful to work with, really dedicated to the Sunnyside Municipal Court. So just to tee it up for folks at home, the municipal court plays a really vital role in our community by handling cases such as traffic infractions, misdemeanors, city code violations, helping ensure justice is accessible and fair at the local level. So we're grateful to their staff who does a tremendous job. You should see this place on Tuesdays and Thursdays. It's packed, and we're grateful to Judge Lee, Vanessa, who are here to present. So step on up, folks.
Ms. Enquist, welcome.
Thank you. So, thank you, City Manager, for that. I covered like half of my presentation.
I want
so
to steal your
appreciate
thunder.
that. Okay, so the reason why we have Law Day is just to celebrate the separation of what we do. So a lot of people don't understand how a court works, but that's why I'm here to give you guys some information on how everything is conducted, from how a ticket is initiated to what we do in the courtroom. So like City Manager said, it was an idea brought on by the American Bar Association President Charles Rhine in 1957. He envisioned a special day for celebrating our legal system. So then we're gonna speed up just a little bit. In 1958, Dwight Eisenhower established Law Day as a day of national dedication to principles of government under law. In 1961, Congress designated May 1st as the official date for celebrating Law Day. I understand today's not May 1st, but we were a little busy that day, so thought it was just a better day to do it on a day that everybody was going to be here. And then today, we just, our efforts are to provide an understanding of the legal system across the United States. So, in addition to that, we do want to, well, I want to speak on the separation of power. Under the separation of powers doctrine, each of the three branches exercises certain defined powers free from unreasonable interference by the others. Yet all three branches interact with each other as part of a checks and balances system. So we've got the legislative system, or the legislative branch, executive branch, that's going to be the mayor or manager / city council as well. And then we've got the judicial branch. We are governed by the RCWs and the state court rules. That's how we manage our court here and all other courts across Washington state. So a lot of the main areas that we oversee are going to be criminal matters and infractions, other civil infractions. Those are going to be parking infractions and dog violations. I just wanted to speak briefly on jury duty because it's something that a lot of us call for. People don't want to do it. I understand. But we do have a system where we get what they call a shoebox. It's a random list provided by the Yakima County Superior Court. That's how people are selected for jury duty. We try to help people as best that we can. However, the only three options where we're able to excuse jurors is if they have a doctor's note, they have proof of a prepaid vacation, or if they have residency outside of Yakima County. So we can select jurors from Granger if we'd like. However, we just like to stick to City of Sunnyside and City of Toppenish. Populations we serve. So you're going to see the numbers high. That's because we offer court services for the City of Toppenish as well as the City of Sunnyside. So within the last 3 years, from 2021, it's been steady for 25,000 people. Out of those 25,000 people, it's approximately 90% of the individuals who are within our court system are considered indigent. So we offer court-provided attorneys under those circumstances. For the infractions filed, I'm only going to go on the last 3 years. So in 2022, we had 1,908. 2023, it was 1,348. And then in 2024, we had 1,459. So those are all infractions my staff processes overseas. They see people on a daily basis, want to come in and make their payments, so on and so forth. So the next slide, I wanted to include this one because I know a topic is a question on why our drive-through window is closed. We want to create a clear separation for auditing purposes. So when we've got one person up at the counter taking phones or helping somebody at the court window, I've got another court clerk in here. We can't be taking the payments. I can't be the person taking the payments and doing the deposit at the same time. So we want to create clear separation for auditing purposes. I don't know how many of the courts offer this, but we are a court that offers services for 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. We've got a lobby, it's not a kiosk, but an area where you can submit your payment, fill it out, and it's available in English and Spanish. You can pay by a QR code. You can look up your next court date if you just follow the instructions on that slip. And you can also submit record requests. So even when our doors are closed on a Saturday at 3 p.m., you can still come in, make your payment through the payment box located in the lobby area, as well as the entrance of the building. For criminal cases filed, in 2022, we had 1,592. In 2023, we had 1,418. And in 2024, we had 1,418. Out of all those cases that were filed, in 2022, we had 6,850 hearings that were held. 2023, 5,421. And in 2024, 5,306. So we are busy all the time. I did want to include the revenue for court services. It's always a topic of the expenditures it takes for the court. However, we also do create some level of revenue for the court services we provide for the city of Toppenish. So I wanted to at least include that yes, we are a big expenditure department. However, we are generating revenue through different avenues. So the primary court representatives, this is going to be during a regular court day. We've got the presiding judge, who is Judge Lee. We have the prosecuting attorneys, defense attorneys. We also have an interpreter, and we also have the court clerk. A typical criminal court proceeding begins with the initiation of a criminal case. In the little arrows, it's letting you know what departments are actually involved in that undertaking. And then we have the arraignment docket. And there's a little explanation on what happens during each one of those proceedings. Then we move to the pretrial docket, then the resolution, and then post-sentencing. So post-sentencing is going to be somebody just confirming they completed their jail time, they did their electronic home monitoring, things of that nature. Collaboration. There are a lot of departments that we work with, and that's what brought us to the success that we have now. We rely heavily on the collaborative efforts amongst multiple departments involved in court operations. We've got the prosecuting attorney, defendant, defense attorney, interpreter, the jail, and law enforcement. Our mission is to strive to promote confidence in the independence, integrity, and impartiality of our judicial system. And I invited other department heads to come in and speak on their involvement in the Sunnyside Municipal Court. But so far, does anybody have any questions?
The only
Questions for Ms. Enquist?
Yeah. The only question I had was on your slide, 2017 had an odd number there. What was the difference in 2017?
It can be many things. It could be, is it criminal or infractions?
No, can you pull that up?
Was that on the revenue form?
Yeah, it was on the revenue form, exactly.
We started court services with the city of Toppenish in 2017.
Okay, because that was 26,000 and it jumped up to
Yeah.
229, and now it's 522.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
that's what I was asking. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Further questions? All right, thank you.
Okay, so like I said, I did invite other department heads to come and speak as well. We are going to have the police department go first. It's going to be Chief Lehman and Deputy Chief Schwarter.
Chief Lehman.
You can speak right there if you like.
Okay, Mayor and Council. So we interact with the court frequently, so just pretty much daily. Our officers talk to the judge sometimes in the middle of the night. So issuing citations and complaints is one of the first interactions that we have with the court on a particular case. We'll write the ticket. It'll get referred over to the court. They can also get tickets referred from the prosecutor's office, but I'm sure the prosecutor will talk about that. Officers testify in court when they're called to do so. It may be a traffic infraction, which rarely happens, but sometime in a criminal trial. We testify more frequently, I think, up in Yakima in the bigger cases than we do here locally. We provide evidence. So we provide evidence to the court through the prosecutor, whether that's dash cam footage, body cam, photos, radar gun certifications, maybe something that we collected as a piece of evidence. So a pipe or a rock or piece brass knuckles or whatever. And then we also serve warrants for the court. So the court can have somebody scheduled for a hearing if they don't show up and it goes to warrant. A lot of times that warrant will be put in the officer that was responsible for the original case. It'll be put in their box. They're responsible for attempting to serve that. We'll also serve summons for the prosecutor. So if they have somebody that they need as a witness in a trial or something to that effect, we'll serve those. The jail will probably talk about this, Sergeant Gutierrez, but our jail staff does provide the courtroom security during court. And then we coordinate with the municipal prosecutor. We may have questions for him on a case. And we do this frequently with Superior Court as well. Which direction do you want us to charge on this? This is kind of the situation and how it unfolded. What charges do you think are more applicable so that they don't run into problems later down the road when they're trying to prosecute? So Deputy Chief Schwarter.
Deputy Chief.
Mayor and Council, thank you for having me here today. And, the city of Toppenish interacts with the court in a very similar way as Chief Lehman said. I think there's very few differences, if any. But what I would like to say is that the city of Toppenish is thankful for the collaborative relationship that we have with the courts and with the city of Sunnyside. So with that, unless you guys have any specific questions for the city of Toppenish, I think I'll turn it back over.
Questions for the Deputy Chief? Hearing none. Thank you, sir.
All righty, thank you.
Thanks.
Good evening. My name is Sergeant Gutierrez. I run the jail. I'm not as polished as everybody else. I kind of hide out behind the walls. I'm celebrating my 25th year here. I've had the pleasure of watching this place grow as far as the city, the jail, the police department, everything here, new and older faces. I don't mean older faces. I'm sorry.
Thanks, Sergeant Gutierrez.
But it's great to be here. So I run the jail. We're a 77-bed facility, both male and female. Maximum occupancy is 97 with overflow and holding and segregation cells. We operate 5 male pods between 14 and 16 inmates, 1 female pod with 12 inmates, 4 holding segregation cells for behavioral and disciplinary use. Our average daily population is 50. Depending on the season, summers are the heaviest. So we can go up to in the 70s. We have 8 corrections officers, 1 sergeant, and 1 commander over our division. The majority of our officers are experienced officers with over 10 to 15 years of service. Our officers are primarily assigned to the care and custody of the inmates and safety and security of the facility. Along with the daily security assignments, there are a range of specially assigned and designated duties, including transport officers, jail transfers between courts, medical appointments. There are, as the chief mentioned, the court security officer, commissary, and classifications. So we're going to be the second step in the inmates' arrival to this whole process. Patrol brings them in. We're the first ones to start processing them, get them booked in, get them searched. We start with their initial care and classification, figure out what kind of inmate they are, what their special needs are. If there's things that we need to accommodate, we'll do their court indigency forms to see if they qualify for attorney assistance. If they have their own, we issue them their initial rights for court, and then we'll forward that packet along with the fingerprint dispositions, which are forwarded to the state, which then the court will send theirs, and that's how the records tie once they get to the state, and it validates that process. We primarily house for Sunnyside and Toppenish on new arrests and court commitments, as well as our local, state, and federal contracts. In 2024, we booked 2,670 inmates for a total of 22,568 days in custody, with an average of 230 inmates per month, both local and contract that have been booked. We also conducted hundreds of inmate transports locally and across the state without incident over that same time span. We operate court inmate services for Sunnyside Municipal Court, as well as Yakima District Court, and video courts for several of our contract agencies. This requires our staff to be very proficient with multi-jurisdictional proceedings. We facilitate contact between inmates and their legal representatives. Oftentimes, the attorneys will call us, ask for a little bit of research on how much time this inmate has credit for. That's something I really like, that when I first started, that wasn't done. It was kind of just started from the time of the sentencing and hearing, and regardless of how you feel about inmates, fairness is fairness. So the COs will go and research back as far as we can within our system to show, hey, he's got credit for this day, for that day. And a lot of times they come out of court and they already have their sentence served because of the amount of times they've been through the system. And then officers are in charge of processing, documenting court sentencing paperwork for these inmates to ensure that their proper length of stay and their releases. So it's very important to us to get them out in a timely manner. We're not punishers. We're there to impose what the court has issued out. That's it. Our main concern is safety and safety and welfare of the inmates, and make sure that this city is safe. And that includes them.
Thank you. Questions for the sergeant?
Yeah, I have a
Ms.
question.
Hancock.
Sergeant, I see quite a bit that we're taking on some of Grandview's prisoners.
Yes, Grandview, we're the only, there's maybe 10 functioning city jails in the state. There's only 2 on this side of the mountains.
Does Grandview transport them here?
No. Well, yes. So when they're initially arrested, yes.
Okay.
Just as, Toppenish Wood, Wapato, Granger, Zilla. District Court, when I mentioned them earlier, on Wednesdays, Grandview does pay as part of their contract to have us take them to District Court in Yakima or in Grandview on Wednesdays only. Okay. Any other day it'd be due video court. So we have that set up here with our own IT. But yeah.
Okay. Thank you for that.
Further questions? Deputy Mayor.
So you separated the local and the contracted employee or inmates, right? Do you know what percentage is local?
Local is, again, we like to consider ourselves like Jenga, Tetris, you name it. It's a constant fluid motion back there of whatever's happening. But on the regular, maybe a quarter of the inmates are local.
Okay. And also, some of that information, you were going through it too,
I can
kind of fast, but if Mr. Gonzalez can provide it to the council, that'd be awesome.
Awesome. Further questions? Ms. Vasquez.
Yeah, I had one more. So just regarding the inmates, have you guys ever housed inmates from, let's say, Seattle, Spokane?
Many of our contracts are West Side. Okay. So we have everywhere from Grandview all the way up to Sela locally, except for YPD. They have their own jail. And, well, I can say Ellensburg, actually. And then on the west side, several within, all the way up from Linwood, Bothell, that core area down to Cle Elum, Black Diamond, that area right by Auburn, Adams County, Othello. That'd be our main, and then the federal contract with the marshals. Most of those are going to have cases between Yakima, Richland, and Spokane offices. So if we're central, if that inmate has cases in all of them, those are federal, then they'll house them here kind of as a hub. So that number can be down from, 10 marshal inmates up to 30, 40, depending on what the caseload is.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Interesting.
Ms. Hancock.
When was the last time those contracts for these, and this might be for Chief, when was the last time these contracts were updated? Can you fill us in on that, Chief? Or Sergeant Gutierrez, whoever has the answer?
It's annually.
Annually.
Every year they're looked at. The old administration didn't quite do it that way. Commander Gusby and I work really hard on them. Every year we go out and redo them. The marshal's contract it's every, 5 to 7 years that can be redone. DOC kind of lays it out how they want it. We don't get to determine or ask for any certain amounts, but they worked really well with the chief and I over the last couple of years to make accommodations because they're limited. They have a governor over what they're allowed to pay out, but they found other ways of compensating for our services. They really like our location. Sunnyside's in a great spot. And something like my dad always said, that Sunnyside's biggest potential is that nobody knows what we can do.
Location.
It's a great location. So,
All right. Thank you, sir.
yes, sir.
And you came off quite polished, by the way.
Good job.
Good evening. My name is Albert Miranda. I'm the dispatch supervisor for Sunnyside and Toppenish. This is my first time doing this, so bear with me, please. The assignment was given to me a little bit ago, and I wasn't really sure what they were asking for, so I'm just going to go with a quick synopsis of what I understand with what we provide with the courts. The interactions that we have, the involvements, dispatch 24/7 operations. We're here 365 days a year, and we're kind of like Sergeant Gutierrez was mentioning, we're like a hub when it comes to paperwork with police, paperwork with courts, speaking with the public, all that comes in between dispatch. We're continually working on streamlining paperwork process so we can get all this information as soon as possible. We have time limits, time constraints to be able to enter, clear, get all that stuff taken care of in the system throughout the agencies. They're all interlinked. So dispatch utilizes also a surveillance system, and we monitor courtroom operations. We have panic buttons in there for judges' chambers, intercoms, communications, aside from radio transmissions with law enforcement. So we're constantly in the know. We're able to monitor while we're dispatching to see if there's any kind of disturbances or anything needed during court. Of course, you guys have the security here as well. Some of the items that we process in court relations Sunnyside courts, we also have protection orders. We process them there. We house them there. We enter them based on the information that the courts give us, and make sure that all the information is accurate, date of birth, all that good stuff needs to be 100% accurate. So that way there's no issues when it comes to law enforcement coming into contact with somebody or taking the wrong person into custody. That's also done while they're dispatching regular everyday calls. So same thing with warrants, entries, clearances, recalls, and reentries. Occasionally, we do have to reenter warrants for whatever reason. They're not able to book them, medical concerns. We reenter warrants, and same thing, we have actual physical warrants there to continue the process for the courts. So that way there's no hiccups and no legal restraints or anything like that. Doors, we have the doors, we access they are able to buzz through us. We're able to ask who it is if we can't recognize body language or demeanors, and we are the ones that allow inmates in through. It's the interfacility transfers from their pods to the courtrooms. So we're in control of that as well. Additional responsibilities. I was recently surprised with the privilege of supervising reception, records, and the evidence at PD. So now I'm also trying to handle those departments on top of dispatch. So I'm also learning those, learning curve for me. But for records, they're accessing and providing information and recordings, both audio and video, as well as paper and electronic documentations. They help correct issues with citations if further information is needed. Records management and compliance with records retention schedules and processing all those records accordingly. So that's the records division part of it, excuse me. Evidence, they collect, preserve, prepare, and analyze evidence that may be used in court. So, upholding legal standards and chain of custody compliances along with proper methods to process any evidence. This evidence technician can also serve as an expert witness in court and has access to the judicial system, the JIS, for dispositions and information to process like retention schedules, all that stuff for any of the evidence that she might be have in the custody. But yeah, so dispatch, you know, they handle emergent and non-emergent communications throughout all of this. So there's a lot of stuff going on in dispatch daily, constantly. And the crew that we have up there, we have 8 fully trained dispatchers. They are good at what they do. They can multitask and they are accurate. They're efficient and obviously getting better and continuing to increase their skills daily. So, you know, there's a lot going on there and they correlate a lot with a lot of different departments. So we use our CAD system, which is our local records management system. It's also known as Flex or Spillman. And that's what we use to help us process daily tasks. I was also asked for career opportunities. I think right now, currently, we're not contracting more people as far as I know for dispatch. It would be nice, but it's an awesome job. It's something, like I said, you have to be able to communicate well with others, with the public. And I like the fact that we take pride in making sure that the public and first responders are going home safely and everybody's taken care of. And that's all I have.
Thank you. Questions, Mr. Deputy Mayor?
Are all the dispatchers bilingual?
No.
No. So how do you manage that with the community, you know, with the Spanish speaking?
So we have, it's a translating service. It used to, I think here they're using Voyance or Language Line. And so whenever we have somebody that does not speak English or Spanish or whatever language, we're able to call into this service as a conference call and they'll find which language it might be. So that's what we're using right now. And I know there's technology out there right now that actually translate for you, but that's at the primary PSAP at this time, not as our secondary.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Further question, Ms. Vasquez?
Yeah, has that been pretty efficient? Like the whole translating?
No.
No.
Not the greatest thing. No, there's a time delay. Obviously, there's nothing compared to on-site translation right then and there. You can hear a lot of different things that translators cannot hear. In the moment, well, the way they say something, it's nothing compared to somebody that's bilingual. Yeah, there's delays in processing everything, and so it just muddies it up a little bit, but it gets the job done.
Councilor Frausto?
Councilor Vasquez actually asked what I was going
Okay. Other questions? All right. Well, thank you, sir. And for somebody who only had a few minutes to prepare, you did an excellent job.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Council members, good evening. My name is Tyler Everett. I am the Sunnyside Municipal Court prosecutor as of Thursday. I've been on the job since May 1st here. I'm just brand new to this office. So my introduction, strangely enough, actually probably matters. I've been doing this now. I'm a practicing attorney here in the Lower Valley. I grew up here in Grandview, in between Grandview and Prosser. I've lived my entire life here in the Lower Valley. My wife teaches here in Sunnyside. While I don't live in Sunnyside, I do like to think of this community, the Lower Valley community, as part of my community. I have been a practicing attorney here in the Lower Valley for 25 years now. I've served as a defense counsel for the vast majority of that time. I was a district court pro tem judge for about 10 years there, and now I'm starting on as a prosecuting attorney. One of the things that the prosecutor's role here is obviously we handle the criminal prosecution of any of the cases that come through the city, the municipal courts here in Sunnyside. And what that means is all those infractions that have to be handled, all those criminal cases that get filed, those are on me. It's my job to handle those cases, to prosecute those from the time that they're filed with the court. The court has made its finding of probable cause until the time they're removed from probation or the case is dismissed. Part of my job here, and the difference between being a prosecutor and being defense counsel is part of my job here is I have ethical obligations to ensure that both the defendant is treated and received a fair trial and his rights or her rights are ensured, as well as to ensure that the justice system is upheld. The community that I represent is made sure that they are represented. The victims of any crimes are given an opportunity to be represented here in court and to ensure that fairness and equality is part of the justice system here in the municipal court in Sunnyside. One of the things I want to talk about, because I do think it is important, is one of the challenges, or some of the challenges that Sunnyside and Toppenish are facing here in the municipal court system. Everything in Washington State is in flux. It's just changing. As the state continues to put standards on increasingly smaller numbers of defense counsel cases, it increases costs and burdens on municipal courts, especially the smaller municipal courts like Sunnyside. The volume of cases that Sunnyside has to handle and the volume of cases that they have to handle involve a lot of defense counsel, and that increases a lot of expense. The number of individuals who come through the system who are stuck in it's kind of a perpetual revolving door because of the lack of resources such as mental health treatment, addiction counseling. More and more often, you see people coming through the system who are stuck because they can't. The Sunnyside Municipal Court, Toppenish Municipal Court simply does not have the tools to get them the mental health counseling that they need. To get them the addiction counseling that they need. So we do the best we can with the system that we have. We make sure that everybody's treated fairly and their rights and responsibilities are taken care of as best we can. But the constant and ongoing challenge for any court is to ensure that both the defendant is given a fair and fair trial and an equal opportunity, and that the community is maintained, the lawfulness and the laws of the community are upheld. And that is a constant balancing act that puts in a lot of different pressures on a lot of different things. Defense counsel makes sure that they're doing their job. The judge has to balance to make sure that he's doing his job and that I'm doing my job. Defense counsel's doing their job. And then it's a constant pressure on the city to help try and find the resources necessary to cut down on recidivism, to help find ways to get these people off the streets who are bothering the citizens, who are causing problems, but who don't really belong in jail. They need help that's not going to be solved by holding them in jail where it costs the city money to hold them and treat them for 60, 90, 100 days, only to be let back out on the street and continue with the same pattern. And so the law is, one of the things you have to understand about me and the way I view the law is my dad was a lawyer here in Grandview. My granddad was a lawyer up in Spokane. And I grew up in a household that really does believe in the law. I think our justice system is the greatest thing in the world. I think that if I do my job right, defense counsel does his job right, Judge Lee does his job right, justice is usually served. And I think that it's one of those things that it's a responsibility for everybody in the justice system to remain ever vigilant to make sure that we always remember we're judging actions, not people. A good person can make a bad decision. A bad person has every bit as much right to protection under the law as anybody else. And it is my hope that part of what I do here as the prosecuting attorney is to find that balance and help make sure that this court maintains that balance. I don't have a whole long presentation, so if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Questions for Mr. Everett? Mr. Deputy Mayor.
Are you attending court in person or via Zoom?
I attend, well, the arraignments, first off, since I've been in court, I think one day, it's kind of up to me. It's kind of new, but most of the time it's going to be in person. The pretrial docket's going to be in person entirely. The arraignment calendar, if it's just a few arraignments, we may do it via Zoom, but the vast majority of it is going to be in person. I think that the prosecutor and defense counsel ought to be sitting in the same room as the defendant and the judge, and probably everybody deserves to be sitting in the courtroom and having it done face to face.
I agree with you. Thank you.
All right, Councilor Ripley.
Yeah, the mental and drug addiction court, does it work? Have you kind of tracked it to see if that works?
Statistically speaking, and I don't have them off the top of my head, in Benton County and Yakima County, the therapeutic courts are far more successful at preventing recidivism than just the standard criminal justice system. However, any of the therapeutic courts are incredibly labor intensive and require a great number of hearings and a great number of people basically walking the defendants through their process. So frankly, the cost is probably prohibitive at this point, but therapeutic courts statistically are just better at preventing recidivism. Benton County, I know Judge Burrows in Superior Court, and I know Judge Bell in District Court both have had good luck with Veterans Court and Drug Court. I know Drug Court in Yakima has been very successful at helping their graduates avoid a constant reappearance in court. But it's a very labor-intensive and complicated process, and establishing an entire therapeutic court in Sunnyside would be a major undertaking.
Thanks.
All right. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you. Very nice to meet you, folks.
Likewise.
Yes. We have another, we do. Two more.
Hi, my name is Doug McKinley. I'm one of the 5 public defense attorneys who contracts with your city to provide public defense services for the city of Sunnyside. Little background about myself. I started my career at Pacific Northwest National Lab, the largest employer in Eastern Washington. As their attorney, I litigated and represented them in intellectual property disputes primarily. I did that for 5 years as their employee, and then for another 15 years as their outside counsel. I have litigated and am a member of obviously all the courts in Washington, I've had cases in numerous superior courts throughout Washington, in the Eastern and Western federal district courts in Washington, in the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals, in the United States Supreme Court, in the United States Court of Federal Claims, and in the United States Court of Appeals for the Federal Circuit. I say that just so you will be aware that I've seen a lot of courts operate. And I think you can be proud of the court that you have in Sunnyside. I would know. I read hundreds of police reports. Each of the public defenders is under contract to provide representation in 300 different cases. So in a typical year, I'll read 300 different police reports. Our job as public defenders is to act as the check on the entire system. Our job is to make sure that the police officers are respecting citizens' rights, to make sure that the prosecutor is respecting our clients' rights, to make sure that the court is respecting our clients' rights. And probably historically, for a jurisdiction like the city of Sunnyside, your biggest potential financial liability would be a successful class action lawsuit where a group like the ACLU or someone else was able to prove that you systematically did not honor people's constitutional rights. At least historically, that's where various jurisdictions around the size of Sunnyside have wound up with significant financial liability. So I think you should be proud of your jail staff. You should be proud of your police force. You should be proud of the judge you've hired to oversee these cases. And you should be proud of the prosecutors that you've had, although Mr. Everett and I are just getting to know each other. He comes with a high recommendation from other members of the bar who've seen and practiced law in Franklin County and Benton County. And I should also say that I've done this job in Franklin and Benton County. I'm intimately familiar with their drug court, with their veterans court, and with their mental health court. I was on Katie Butler's docket when she set that up. She was the district court judge at the time who brought that into being. I would say the biggest thing that I would worry about if I were sitting in your seats is that the Washington State Bar recommended new case standards for public defenders, and Tyler touched on this a little bit, where it would specifically impact the city of Sunnyside is right now the case maximum for a public defender such as myself is 400 cases per year. If you do more than that, that's considered unethical. The city of Sunnyside actually only contracts with us to do 300 for each of the 5 public defenders. So you give yourself quite a bit of room underneath that cap. What the new recommendations, and I should say I disagree with them. And if anybody gets up here as a criminal defense attorney and says they agree with those standards, then I would say, well, then you're committing malpractice, aren't you? Right? If you have a public defense contract to do 300 cases a year and you agree with the standards that say if you do more than 125, you're committing malpractice, then what are you doing? I represent each and every one of my clients fully and ethically. They get a complete defense. If they're not a U.S. citizen, they're advised of the immigration consequences for their case and the matter before them. I treat the entire client and I treat all of them with the completeness that I would handle with an appeal in a federal appeals court or in the United States Supreme Court. Fortunately, that's not too difficult. As I'm going to just repeat myself once again. Your police force is professional. They handle their cases without prejudice. Your jail staff is professional. They handle their cases with caring, and I think do a very honorable job. Your judge, I think, gives thoughtful and it creates a thoughtful and a great record that any city could defend itself on if you were called to task, if someone were to criticize the city for the way it was maintaining its criminal justice system. I think that's everything I wanted to cover. Does any of the council members have any questions for me?
Questions for Mr. McKinley?
Thank you.
Hearing none. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
And there's one more I hear.
Oh, I should say, excellent interpreter services. Well, absolutely helpful.
Well, that's good to hear. I'm happy to hear that.
Thank you. My name is Daniel. I'm a Spanish interpreter for the court here in Sunnyside.
Now we know why he said that.
So, us court interpreters facilitate communication between individuals who speak different languages and are involved in the legal proceedings. We interpret the spoken language in real time, enabling effective communications with the clients. We like to maintain impartiality, and we also like to take into account where the clients from, because certain regions of Mexico, for example, they have different words that they use. So we would like to accommodate that when we actually are interpreting. So in conclusion, we just provide services for people who are having a different language other than English.
All right. Thank you. Questions for our court interpreter?
No, thank you.
Hearing none, I would like to express my appreciation for your work. Having volunteered as an interpreter on a few professional events, I can only imagine how incredibly exhausting and difficult the job is that you have. So I appreciate your efforts on all of that. Thank you for that, sir.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
All right. Judge, do you wish to say a few words?
I had a very easy night. I like that. Does anybody have any questions for me? I know I've met most of you before, maybe with the exception of one. It's a collaborative effort. Obviously, you can see that. It requires a lot of work from a lot of different people. One of the things I guess I'd want to address, and judges always need to address this when new city council comes in, but it kind of plays on that separation of powers that Vanessa had spoken about. So as a court, number one, we're neutral. We can't be in positions where we overly help prosecution. We can't be in a situation where we overly help the defense. Part of that too, with that separation of powers, is the court kind of is their own entity. And where kind of you'll see, and judges always talk about this, where city council, especially new city council, starts butting heads, as having to do with staff. And so as a judge, one of my jobs, I'm a part-time judge. It's a contract. And however, one of the things I have to do is oversee my staff. And that means staffing issues and hiring and firing and those types of things and payroll. And I know it's come up a couple times. That's an absolute duty of mine. It's under RCW, it's under court rule. Not doing that puts me at risk. It puts cities at risk. It puts government at risk. And so that's why I do that. And I kind of get it. That's the thing that doesn't make a lot of sense. Like the city pays people, but I control them. And like I said, I mean, that's just how it is. But I get that it's hard to understand that. So Does anybody have any questions for me?
Anybody have any questions for Judge Lee?
No, that was easy.
All right, thank you, sir.
Thank you. Have a good night, everybody.
I do want to express my appreciation to all of you who presented this evening. I think this presentation has been very informative for all of us and very helpful. I think there's areas that we all learned something. And to see the scale of individuals who are involved in the court on a weekly basis and the amount of work that you do and who it all includes is helpful for us. I think sometimes we get in our little silo and we don't see who all's involved in other elements of the city. Unfortunately, the court date that Ms. Enquist had invited us to, I wasn't able to attend. But yeah, I appreciate the work that you guys all do. I think it's a tremendous job and a tremendous service to our community. So thank you so much for that. All right. Law day is not. And I find myself absolutely shocked that they just don't all want to stay here for the rest of the business. Yeah. All right. Next item of business, item B, South Fifth Street and East Edison Avenue intersection. We have had actually over a period of time, citizens complaining about that intersection. Studies have been commissioned and conversations have been had, but nothing has been followed through on that. That changed recently, and so we do have some information that we'd like to discuss. We're not going to make a decision tonight. This is a study session, but I certainly am looking forward to this report. So, Mr. City Manager.
Yes, thank you, Mayor, for that. So interim Public Works Director Cus Arteaga has been working on this item concerning Fifth and Edison. Everybody knows this where Varietal is, so very famous intersection. So over the years, there's been a lot of requests from the public, as you mentioned, Mayor. And for folks that have lived here a long time, it can be a bit tricky at this intersection. So council has asked staff to investigate different options that are cost effective and really impactful in the short and long run. So when you ask us to do something, he does it right away. So I think he's got some pretty good solutions, Mayor.
All right, Mr. Arteaga.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Good evening. I'm sorry. Thanks, Gwen.
Yeah,
Good evening.
Luis is there.
Yeah, on the April 15, 2025 council meeting, we were directed to evaluate the intersection of Fifth and Edison. And there was two items that were identified. One was the obstruction to the west from the vehicles that are parked at the Varietal microbrewery and the speeding westbound for that area. So we took a look at what we could do, and we evaluated the problem, taking safety as a top priority, financial as a second, and considering inconvenience as our third. So that we have three options. The first one was if we took the north-south leg, because that's where the stop signs are at, and switch them to an east-westbound, that would stop traffic on the south side of the bridle going eastbound, which would improve the visibility for the traffic going south on Fifth. And that is a simple solution. So we estimated about $250 to do that because we would be reusing the existing stop sign and poles, just switching them over to the other legs, east and west. We didn't think that this was the preferred option because you're having traffic. There's two intersections to the east that stop four-way, and then here we would be switching it. So we felt that we would add confusion to a problem that already exists. So we went to our second option, and that was, we took a look at eliminating parking as well. But our second option was to take and convert this to a four-way stop. And what this will do is it brings traffic to a stop, so it would increase the visibility to all four directions. It would also create vehicle to stop going westbound, which then we felt would help reduce the speeding traffic westbound through there. And this is a fairly inexpensive as well because you already have 2 stop signs there. We would just need to add 2 more. So we're figuring about $500. So that's an affordable option. We feel that it does what we need it to do, and it would improve the safety. It would help reduce some of the speeding. The third option is that we would look at was to do the same thing, make it a 4-way stop. However, we would include the elimination of parking in front of the bridal establishment. This would truly improve the sight distance to the west, but we felt that this would truly create a financial impact to that business because of the limited parking that's available. So after evaluating the 3 options and the financial situation for converting it to a 4-way stop and the increasing 1 more intersection from the 2 to the east, we felt it would be the safest, the least expensive, and we didn't feel that it would create a hardship to a business. So I guess at the next council meeting, we would recommend council to consider option 2 as improving this intersection.
All right, thank you. Council, questions for Mr. Arteaga? Ms. Hancock.
Because what did Varietal think about this?
We haven't met with anybody yet because we wanted to present to council first to see what direction you would give us. Once you provide us with some direction, then we'll go meet with all the local businesses in the area and implement it correctly, because we would need to post it that there's going to be traffic revisions, place the revisions ahead signs, and get hopefully buy-in from everybody within those 2 blocks.
Okay. Mr. Deputy Mayor.
First of all, thank you, Cus, for doing this so quickly. I know this has been brought up many times before, and it was just nothing was acted. So thank you for that. How many parking spaces would that eliminate in front of Rido?
If we go with option 2, it doesn't eliminate any.
But if
we went to option 3, I believe there's like 6 parking spaces on the from the east corner of the building to where the lawn is at, and that's where the large trucks come in, and they're the ones that create the biggest obstruction.
Would that also prevent the food trucks from parking there? Because I know from time to time they have food trucks, and it's pretty popular for them.
I haven't seen the food truck, so I didn't know there was food trucks that parked there.
They'll have one about once a month, maybe.
Well, there's a food truck in the lawn area now, but if there's
a separate one sometimes.
Okay, yeah, I wasn't aware that was there, but we could probably place a sign to restrict it from the corner. I would say from the corner to the tracks and make them move over to the west, which would improve the sight distance.
And
Okay. Councilor Vasquez.
yeah, and like zooming in, it looks like there's only 5 parking spaces there. And so I think option 2 would be good, but I think that if we go with option 2, we would have to speak to the owners of Rydell and just kind of let them know, like, no large trucks to be parking in those spaces, because if there's trucks, then whoever's coming from, let's say on Edison heading towards downtown, they won't be able to see the car on the other stop sign because there's large truck.
Yeah, well, I think that the good step is to start with option 2, give it a couple months and reevaluate it, because I mean, if it doesn't improve it where we feel that it's truly safe, then we would probably need to move to option 3 and eliminate the parking stalls. But I think if we ease into it, meet with the businesses, let them know why we're making this change, and I think everybody can support that it's the safety of the community. So
Okay, Ms. Hart?
One of the things I was just thinking about is that, and I think that Counselor Vasquez had mentioned it too, as far as that runs into the truck route right at that corner on Fifth and Edison. The other thing that happens there is there's a stop for the school buses just right there where you see the railway. So that backs up traffic almost into the intersection of Fifth and Edison. So I think there was an issue with that at one point. It had to do with the railway and what could be done there as far as having another stop sign.
Yeah, we will have to take a look at the stop bar eastbound by the tracks, because we would need to stop traffic at whatever distance the railroad is going to mandate. That would create a problem if we were going to singleize the intersection, because when you singleize the intersection, then you have the trip lines. This one would be stop signs that would be erected. So I don't see it as a difficult task to do that.
May I just ask one more
Ms. Ripley
question?
has a question.
Okay. I have another
Councilor
question
Ripley?
with her.
Yeah, my option would be to have a four-way stop and then see if we could get Varietal to just let cars park in front. I hate to have them lose their parking in front there, but when the big trucks are there, you can't see past them. And I'm not quite certain that it would be that way with cars, but I would think you'd be able to see past the cars and with the four-way stop. But, it's like pure joy when you get one of those front parking spaces.
Yeah, no, I agree. This intersection, we watched it for a little bit, and it needs some attention. And the good part is that we can implement some simple steps to get us to where we need to be, but we need to start. And as we start the process, as was discussed, is we need to meet with the businesses. We need to get buy-in from the businesses. And I mean, if you look at like at the school, they'll have like small vehicle parking, the sign designated. Maybe we implement some signs for the first three stalls that says small vehicle, no trucks. I'm going to need to meet with the chief and make sure that what we're doing is okay. But I wanted to bring you some options for you to consider, and we can always improve once we get started.
Okay, Ms. Hancock.
I just want to say, I really like what Vicky just said and about the small cars parking out front. I think that's the way we need to go, in my opinion, but that's just one, so.
Okay, Councilor Hart, you wanted to?
No, I'm
Okay.
good. I'm good.
I would go with motorcycle only parking, but I'm not biased at all. You're talking about pure joy to get a spot there. It says when you're riding a motorcycle to get a spot right there, that's joy. All right. Well, I thank you for the work that you've done on this. This was really well done, and you got right on it. And I appreciate that, because I know it has come up to council before, and for whatever reason, nothing has been followed through on it. And I appreciate getting this taken care of. It is a scary intersection sometimes when traffic is heavy on a busy night. Varietal hosts events sometimes where there's a bingo night or a trivia night, and there's a lot of people there. It's very popular. The weekends, it's very popular. So for the people to be able to enjoy the facility and traffic to be able to enjoy some safety, I think it's an important step. I agree with option number 2 personally. My only concern is with the truck route there, and we don't have to put a bump out on that Edison eastbound for the right turn or anything, do we?
No, because once they come to a stop, then they can go.
Because if we have to put a bump out, that makes it really difficult for a semi, for example, coming through
Yeah,
there.
it's not wide enough to do that, so.
Okay, very good.
Trucks go both ways.
They do. Sometimes they go straight north-south, but I've seen them try to make a turn there as well. So I'm just concerned about that. Okay, thank you. If there's no further questions on this item,
Oh, but Mr. Mayor, can we take a break? Just a 5-minute break.
council, we have a request for a bit of a recess. Any objection?
No objection.
No.
No objection. We've been sitting here for a while. Odds are we're going to be sitting here for a little while yet. So, all right, we will be recessed for 5 minutes. All right?
Thank you.
Need water.
So we'll be back at 8 o'clock on my clock. Thank you, everybody, for your patience. Sorry, my microphone was off. Thank you, everybody, for your patience. We're back in open session again. And that recess was definitely necessary. Thank you for the request on that one. I don't always think about that. I should be better at it. I have 4 daughters and have been married for almost 40 years. And I know when I'm traveling that every time I see a blue sign that says rest area, I shout out, anybody need the restroom?
And they aren't as old as me, Dean.
You know, and sometimes I travel with my mom and the same thing. And so I don't think about it in council meetings. I'm not sure why. You think I'd have learned by now. All right, item C, 9th Street and East Edison Avenue intersection. Discussion on intersection improvements at South 9th Street and East Edison Avenue. Mr. City Manager.
Thank you again, Mayor. So again, interim city manager Cus Arteaga has been working on this item. This is the intersection adjacent to City Hall that we're very well aware can be very challenging. It's a wide street and try to cross that around 5, 6 o'clock. Really challenging. So Cus has been investigating that with his team as well. Mayor.
Mr. Arteaga.
Thank you. This one is a really challenging intersection because of the amount of lanes that's there. And it is on your 6-year tip currently, and it's on there for $1.9 million. The chances of securing that funding are going to be very difficult to make that an single-eyes intersection. So the easiest fix and the most economical fix is to just repeat what we just talked about with the 5th and Edison. If we convert that to a 4-way stop, $500, and it'll stop traffic because I've looked at that intersection, and you have pedestrians, especially in the 3:30 in the afternoon. It gets really busy when the schools are being let out. And you'll have motorists, and there's an opening, but there's a pedestrian, and then they're trying to get across, so it's challenging for the pedestrian, and then they cut in front of a motorist coming across, And it's like Murphy's Law, you have the one that's going really slow and then the one that's coming really fast behind it. If council is receptive to converting this one as well, we will have the 9th and Edison as a four-way stop, the 7th and Edison as a four-way stop, 6th and Edison as a four-way stop, and also the 5th and Edison if council approves that at the next meeting. And I think that until we're able to tailor an application that would fit the funding grant applications, we need to do something, and a four-way stop is the easiest and will improve safety, in my opinion, 100%.
All right. Thank you, sir. Questions? Go ahead, Ms.
So Cuz, pretty much if we do convert into a four-way stop sign, we would still keep it on the 6-year plan to potentially turn it into a traffic light?
Yeah, you could continue to leave it because it doesn't cost you anything to have it on the 6-year tip. But if the conversion does what it needs, because at 1.9 million, you're having to contribute $287,000. And if the four-way stop at $500, I would not encourage you to spend $300,000 just to change it.
No, I can agree. And is the reason being there's a lot of accidents at the intersection?
There is, I haven't pulled the accident history, but there's a lot of near misses. And my fear is just a pedestrian getting hit. So $500 buys you a lot of insurance. So I think it would be an economical fix.
Smart idea.
Other questions?
So true.
Ms. Ripley.
I always wondered why there were so many accidents there. But, at the food bank, you sit there for a couple hours and, oh my gosh, it's horrible.
Right.
It's, yeah.
And then what happens with that bubble out at City Hall? I've been talking to the city manager. We're trying to brainstorm is what can we do to make that more visible, which would be safer because you're coming and all of a sudden you're switching over. So we're trying to figure out how to improve the travel navigation to the west to make it safer. But for now, at the addition of the stop signs, we'll improve it.
Other questions or comments? Ms. Hart.
I was just thinking that I think we've talked about it before at different times when that design came up, that it could be, especially there on the north corner of that, could be narrowed a bit more so that it wouldn't be quite the jog over. You know what I mean? From where the bump out is, if it was narrowed up a little bit closer back to the sidewalk there.
If you do that, then you'll create the same situation that you have on 5th and Edison in front of.
Never mind.
Sorry.
I don't want to create a whole, the same thing again.
So that particular intersection has been a pet peeve of mine ever since they did the street improvement right there. I hate that bump out. I was able to convince the city manager at the time to put that big reflective sign up in there because as you come flying along in there, you were not used to it. It's a brand new change. And all of a sudden there's that bump out and you hit that curb and you can do some damage to your vehicle. Would not want anybody to hit that. So there's a reflective sign there, but I don't think that still makes that intersection all that attractive. And then with the stop signs and like the manager said, with all the traffic that's there, I remember previously sitting in the manager's office, watching vehicles and somebody pulled out in front of somebody and just bang right there in front of the city hall as I was watching. And the vehicle ended up on its side. It was just not a good situation.
We're thinking of adding some reflective units on the face of the curve. So in the evening, when your lights will hit it, they'll pop out that there's a bump there.
Yeah.
So
that, and yeah, that's a lot of four-way stops going through that section of town. But at the same time, I don't know a better solution, because somebody proposed to me, why don't you put a roundabout there? No.
Oh my God. We're not made of money.
We just don't have the money to do that kind of thing. And the roundabout would really damage the plaza that they've worked on for so many years. It would change that look and say, no, I'm not willing to do that. So I think my personal opinion, again, I think four-way stop is probably the most efficient and safest way to go. Again, it's a $500 charge. and some warning signage to get people used to it. I know we're going to get some complaints about additional four-way stops. Council members count on it.
Yeah.
Be ready for the calls and the complaints, but I think in the name of safety, and I think Cuss mentioned it, and it's a huge one, pedestrians. We've got kids walking across those crosswalks a couple times a day. It gets really busy, but who wants to be responsible for one of these kids getting hit? And it's certainly not me. So I'm feeling pretty strongly about that one. So I appreciate your work on that. Mrs. Hancock.
Yeah, I just, on that line that you're saying there, Dean, can we get this up and out to the public as soon as possible? Because they need at least a week's notice, if not 2 weeks' notice, that we're going to talk about this in council.
Can we do something on What's Up Sunnyside, City of Sunnyside Facebook page and the Daily Sun? I still call it the Daily Sun, the Sunnyside Sun. And get that information out to the public starting tomorrow, perhaps?
Yeah, absolutely. We can put a press release out. We could do our social media platforms. I could work with Jackie and work with Cuss Arteaga on that and make it happen.
Okay, yeah, because Councilor Hancock has a great point. Getting that information out as soon as possible, get citizens in here as early as next week already to start making some public comment on it. That would be.
Yeah, and especially varietal too, that they don't, and I'd rather you went and talked to varietal. I don't want them to read it on What's Up Sunnyside because it will affect their business. So before we do the press release, can somebody go talk to varietal?
Absolutely. We'll go talk to them tomorrow, as a matter of fact. So Gus and I will take a walk, and fortunately it's close. We won't get a beer we won't get a beer on city time. Promise.
All right. Further questions or comments on this item? All right. Moving on. Youth Advisory Board discussion. Discuss a proposal for the establishment of a Youth Advisory Board. And Councilor Frausto, I believe this is your item. Am I right?
It is. So picking up the conversation from I believe a month ago, maybe. It's been a little bit in between. But the last time that we were discussing this, Mr. Brown actually was gracious enough to extend his help in shaping this out a little bit more. One downside to my writing is that I can become very technical with it. And when we are trying to do some outreach for youth, it might just not work. So we went in and updated it just a little bit with the updated mission statement, with the objectives, and then outlined a little bit better the role and the description of what these youth will have in terms of their responsibilities. Let's see, the membership, I think, changed a little bit. So we went back for a 1-year term with an opportunity, we have an opportunity for a reappointment, and then a maximum of 2 terms, which I think is a good amount of time to ask of youth to commit. We listed out the selection process, the frequency of meetings, the duties and responsibilities, and then obviously some partnerships that we love to establish that will go hand in hand with the application and interview process with the school district, local nonprofits, and youth serving organizations. And I actually did some research on some of them that exists in the Yakima County, Rodtau's being one of them. Youth resources from Yakima Neighborhood Health Services, and YMCA of Yakima. I'm sure others that exist here in Sunnyside. United Unidos would be one. There was a launch time here outlined, hoping to hit the June announcement program if we can get this shaped up as much as we can and kind of in line with everybody's wishes and suggestions, and then launch it in September with the selection happening around August. And this would be a yearly, so then this would become, I think we were talking about this, Irving, it would become, the application process would become open in the spring. And sometime in the spring, and then we would make our determination sometime in June, and then probably pick up again in the fall.
if that makes sense.
Mhm.
The application form was updated a little bit more. There are a list of questions here. The application process does not have to actually include all 8 of them. I think maybe a few of them would be just fine. And then I think we would work together to establish who would be doing the interviews, if we would form a youth committee amongst ourselves.
We could put together an ad hoc committee to take a look at those
Yeah.
applications and do an interview as well.
And then determine a council liaison that would sit and mentor these youth. And again, their meetings would run just like ours. They would be open to the public. They would run on Robert's Rules of Order. And then they would come and advise us, and they're broken down by district. So remember, we were talking about having them mirror council. So there would be 4 by district. So the youth would have to live within that district, and then we would do 3 at large. And then something that actually Irving added on here is having a youth mayor that would preside over the meetings, which I thought was really cool. And then having a youth city manager that would work with city staff to really understand the operations and assist in the project implementation. So it's just another way to also demystify governance and city governance and the operations amongst our youth, and getting them more engaged and more collaborated. And as the years go by, I hope the engagement and interest grows, and we all become mentors to our youth, because like we said before, we hope that they end up taking these seats and start picking up the skills necessary. If they don't want to be council members or city managers or mayors or finance directors, then they take some form of leadership role in their community. So feedback or questions?
Thank you. Questions for Ms. Frausto?
I just want to say what a wonderful job you've done. I really like this. This is so good. You guys have done a good job. You and Irving did a great job on this, and I'm excited for it to happen. I think this is a great thing. So I just want to say thank you. I like it.
Great, thanks.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Further questions, Deputy Mayor?
Yeah, so my question is on these roles, if you add them up, are you looking for 10 youth now, or would it just be 7 and then one of them would serve as a mayor?
We didn't list that, but I think it would we'd probably stay with the 7 because they'd be mirroring.
Okay, so
Council.
one of them would be elected youth mayor in between, like we do it.
Amongst their peers.
Amongst their peers.
Yeah. But they would all go through the application process, right? Yeah.
So another question that I have, if nobody else has one,
I have a question.
Okay, let's let Ms. Vasquez go.
So the ages, I remember in the first draft, it started from ages 12 to 18, and I recommended to pick it up to 13 because 13 started to be teenagers. And so my question is just, it starts at 14 now. Is there a reason why 13 is being excluded?
I don't think there was any specific reason.
Because it started off at 12. Yeah.
To updating it. What's 13? Is that 7th grade or 8th grade? Someone enlighten me.
7th grade.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it depends if they had
on
a
the
late birthday or
Yeah, so I think 14 would probably be, I think we could still catch them in middle school. 14 is definitely like freshman year. So it depends what are council suggestions? Do we want to bring it down another year to possibly get someone from a middle school age, or leave it starting maybe high school?
Typically going into 9th grade, they come in at 14, turn 15 sometime during that year. In their sophomore year, they're 15, turn 16 sometime during that year, because that's when everybody's excited to get their driver's license. So Councilor Hart, you had a question?
Well, I was just thinking that if there was a way we could maybe have maybe 2 13-year-olds, maybe, because you have 2 middle school. Well, you have 3 middle school possibilities, but I was just thinking if you were to allow for maybe a 13-year-old, that 6th grader.
6th grade, I think it's like
Sixth graders are
Six is
about
12,
11,
13.
12.
They're younger.
They're younger.
Yeah, they're,
Sixth grade is
they're a
younger.
little squirrelier.
13,
No
I think,
offense to
would put
those
us at eighth
guys.
grade.
Mhm.
So it's between eighth grade and that, starting
I think
either at
so.
eighth.
I think around eighth grade, maybe that age group.
Which I think 13 would be good because then we'd also get some like a different perspective, you know, from
Right.
like that 13-year-old. Maybe they're not in high school and they have some different feedback to bring.
Right.
So that'd be really nice.
And I'm just thinking if we could put them on as like liaison for that age group, you know, maybe not necessarily
Oh,
council members, but maybe like they're being mentored for growth.
for
in
the
their-
next.
Yeah, I'm just just thinking that might be okay to do it that way.
Yeah.
Yeah, I personally like the 14 age group, but that's me personally. Did you have a question, Ms. Hancock?
Yeah, I do. I just want to ask council, this is not budgeted, just to be the wet blanket right now. There's no budget for this. We didn't budget it. So that, you know, we need to understand that this is not something we have in our budget. So I want to see it happen. I'm not saying that. I just want to make council aware, because if you're talking in August, September, we'll have to adjust the budget. We'll have to get a budget adjustment in order for that to happen. And I just want to state that. So.
You are correct, and we don't have an estimated cost for this on this either, so we're going to have to do a little bit more work to get that figured out, how much we expect to spend on this, and then do a budget amendment. You're correct. So, Mr. Deputy Mayor.
So another question I have is on the per district. So I understand it's the 4, right? It's per district, and then the 3 at large. Are we going off of the city map or the school district map? Because there is kids that live outside city limits that are involved in school. So
Well,
that's another.
Those could be the at-larges.
Yeah.
They could be the at-larges, yeah. I was thinking city.
Yeah, I think we do need to define that because Deputy Mayor makes a good point, and that was my question as well. Are we going to allow the school district to apply, or is it only the kids who live within city limits? And I'd like to open it up to a lot of kids. This is an opportunity to grow and to learn. So I think that's worth some consideration as well. Yeah. Ms. Ripley.
We're all gonna have to up our game. They're gonna be watching us. And, you know,
We're supposed to be mentors anyway, right?
yeah.
More than in theory.
Dress nice,
Yeah.
be here.
But I think it's an excellent idea, and I want to echo my colleagues in thanking you for the work that both of you have done. So I think this is something that has merit, and we definitely need to push forward. I like this, and I would like to see this happen this coming school year. So taking a look at this timeline, we've got the month of May to iron out a few things, and then move it forward so that we can get things started here. So.
But with the budget, Counselor Hancock's point, how do we want to steer this conversation if it hasn't been budgeted for, or how much do we think the expenses are going to be? Could there be an amendment, or would we have to wait? Because our budget review starts in August. We don't approve another budget until later in the fall.
And it
So
doesn't
then
take
this
effect
would not
until
align with the timeline that we have in front of us.
So what we would do then is we would do a budget amendment to allow for that expense. But what's going to have to happen before we can do a budget amendment is we're going to have to know about how much you estimate that it's going to cost. What are we paying for? And so, you know, are we going to pay them a stipend? Are they going to mirror council that much? I don't estimate that that's going to be a thing. Is there going to be cost for where they're having a meeting? Is there going to be cost involved in staff members there? So we're going to have to do that kind of work so that we can make the appropriate budget
The
amendments.
staff liaison for sure. And then I believe we listed either them meeting here at Chambers here at the police department, or we have our community center facilities as well. So we can break down foreseeable costs, but I don't think we'd run into anything major. I think them getting books of the Robert's Rules of Order, I think would be really great. Irving, I think the last time that we had council meeting, you brought a bag full of some city kind of, logo items, which would be maybe a good little welcome bag for them. Whoever gets selected.
All right. Well, thank you for that. Thank you for your work. And I think the consensus is we definitely want you to move forward on this. So I think if we can get the budget question figured out, I think we can probably get a good vote on this. Irving, you have a question?
Just a quick, I didn't foresee a budget in the first round because, you know, let's say money, but the volunteer portion is what our young people are also going to have to learn in doing that.
Sure.
Their time is just as valuable to work in your community, and maybe some of that could be flipped into receiving earned volunteer hours for some of our students who need that. So that layer of volunteership could be just valuable.
But we need to articulate that as we move forward to make sure that that's clear in everybody's mind. I don't want somebody coming back and say, hey, you're accidentally spending money where you said you wouldn't. So we need to be sure where we're going to do that so that, you know, proper records can be kept. And so,
Mr. Mayor,
yes, sir.
I think when you factor in the expenses, I think it depends on when we hold the meetings. If you hold them at City Hall during the day, we're there. So a staff liaison, you know, that's time that's already being served. We have to consider, are we noticing that? That's Jackie's time. Do we want to live stream it? So that means we're going to be in here. You know, that's typically after hours. And then we have to account for Jafet's time from a technical standpoint. So I think at minimum, you're going to need two individuals to manage it. And then from a technical standpoint, a third perhaps, but Jafet's a really good trainer. So I'm confident, you know, we can learn from a technical standpoint.
And that might be a fantastic opportunity for a student to learn on volunteer time how to stream meetings and do that sort of stuff. So yeah, and those are things that need to be considered. So it's a good point that was brought up. Thank you for that. And well, I'm looking forward to voting yes on this. I really am. I think this is a great idea. All right, so the forensic audit item has been pushed back to a later date. Next item then is item F, animal control. Discuss animal control. Mr. City Manager.
Thank you, Mayor. So on February 19th of this year, we held a public forum that was held here in the Justice Center, was very well attended. So the public can view that on our YouTube page if they want. Then in March, subsequently, Yakima County also held a meeting in Zilla concerning animal control. And somebody wants me to stop talking that phone, huh? So we'll let that stop real quick. There we go. So in March, the county also held a similar meeting just to get ideas, and those were really idea sessions. We didn't have really a specific agenda. It was just a great opportunity for the public to speak their mind, tell us what resources were out there. Councilwoman Frausto was there with myself, and we got a lot of good information and a lot of folks who just love animals and have their heart and soul in this endeavor. Rumi Medina attended that meeting. She has graciously agreed to add to today's discussion. Mr. Mayor, if you'll allow that. Ms. Medina, very well connected in the community, especially with animal adoption. She just has a real passion for it. And if you get to know her, you realize she's so well connected. County Commissioner LaDon Lindy is also here to represent the county's stake in this process. Typically, Commissioner Curtis really leads the charge. He had something else that he had on his calendar. So Commissioner Lindy has graciously also agreed to be here. So we appreciate that. So this is really just another opportunity. We've had some folks in the public reach out to me recently to say, you know, where are we at with this endeavor? And we'll certainly get Chief to weigh in on this particular endeavor. Just to tee it up for the council, sort of the idea coming into the 25 budget was for our animal control to be done by our code enforcement. What we're learning is we're really needing to work that out with the union. There was some conversations that we thought we had that we didn't necessarily have, and we never necessarily codified the fact that they were going to do animal control. Our ACO position was budgeted. So in my view, we need to have that person back. Chief can weigh in on some of the challenges of the adoption process, how we're working with Humane Society, really what we have there are 4 spots for dangerous dogs. So people often ask me, well, why don't you pick up that nice little Chihuahua that's running? We really have to prioritize for pit bulls, giant German shepherds that perhaps bite people. And our police officers are the ones that respond to that. So it's a really complex issue, and it's multi-layered. Everything takes money, as we know, and it's so challenging. Jurisdictions simply don't have the money to buy or build big facilities. It takes the personnel, a tremendous amount of costs, the upkeep of the animals. You've got to treat them well. So these factors, really across the valley and across Yakima County, are where we are today, and it's where we're at. It's just a really challenging situation. So with that being said, I'll kind of just open the floor. We don't really have a specific agenda, Mayor, but again, another opportunity for folks to speak and get the council's input.
All right, thank you, sir. I know that when previously the Humane Society was helping us out, and then Humane Society had decided they were no longer going to pick up animals, the city of Sunnyside was able to hire one of their animal control officers to work for Sunnyside, and she has since left. It has been a real challenge to find an animal control officer ever since the Humane Society decided to step back from picking up animals. And the reason for that is every city in the valley was affected by that. Every city in the valley is competing for a very limited number of trained animal control officers. And simply because somebody is a police officer does not mean they're trained to be an animal control officer. Simply because they are a code enforcement officer doesn't mean they have that training either. And you want a trained individual, both for the animal control officer's protection and the animal's protection. The city of Sunnyside, simply because we're picking up animals, is not about being cruel to animals, and we don't want them to be in an unsafe situation either. So that kind of complicates things, because I don't know from everybody else's perspective, but mine is I want the best of both worlds. I want everybody to be safe. I don't want anybody to get hurt, injured, animals or humans. And I also want them to be able to be kept in a humane location. And, in the wintertime, you set them outside, they're in a pen and they're going to freeze. In the summertime, it's too hot. We need a good facility for that. Well, where do we have a facility? We don't. So there's a lot of complications. And I don't know, council members, if you've got questions or comments on any of this, Ms. Ripley.
Our code enforcement, when we had 2 of them, it was brought before council that they needed training each. And did they ever do that? I know we had one code enforcement quit, and I was just wondering if there had been any training on the dog catcher.
Mr. City Manager, do you know if they've received any training?
Councilor Ripley, they did not. They missed the window. And that was something I was really frustrated with the former economic development director. So no.
Okay.
Other questions? Mr. Deputy Mayor.
So Ruby Medina said it well, right? During her public comments, we need to start enforcing the SMCs and even the policies, start ticketing more, and you'll see how the problem goes away. I mean, growing up, I used to remember, hearing my parents say, don't let the dog loose, the cops or the city catches it, we're going to get a stiff fine. And I believe even, neutered or spayed the dog at our cost. So we're creating this problem on our own by not enforcing this, SMCs and policies. So I think we really need to get back to that and stop finding them. A lot of times they say, well, they don't have money. Well, you take care of your dog and you have nothing to worry about. That's I got.
Hey, I agree. Other questions? Ms. Hancock.
I heard somebody today say dog and cat license. Do we have a cat license?
Apparently at one time we did. Ms. Medina, do you want to come up to the microphone and clarify? Because I think you were the one that said that, right? You were talking about a SMC that talked about cat and dog licenses?
In the ordinances, it is clear for dogs and cats. I think the biggest thing that I really want to, relay to the city council, and I think it was Cuss that was talking about liability and, putting that 4-way stop sign and not having a pedestrian hurt. I don't know if you guys are aware, not too long ago in the city of Yakima, where a young parent was arrested for abuse and neglect of her children. upon the officers investigating, there was a 7-month-old infant who was decomposed or decomposing, a 2-year-old who was severely neglected and without food. When the officers were releasing a public release, there was information, and what was released was that this individual was being investigated for animal cruelty, but that didn't go anywhere. The officers did not go. The animal control officers did not follow through with that investigation, not until later, because until the child abuse case came about, then they went back and charged her for the animal neglect. And so, you know, it's just an awareness for us. When there's animal abuse and neglect, there's other things that can lead to other things that we need to be aware and catch it before it gets worse. I mean, maybe people need help, people need services. You know, somebody, it shouldn't be in their right mind just to wake up and say, hey, I'm just going to abuse my animals and neglect them. Something's happening and we need to be able to help. We have the resources.
All right. Thank you. We're trying to keep it brief so everybody gets a chance to talk, but I appreciate that. And you may stay sitting there. We can call upon you in a couple of different times and you have more opportunities to share. So I appreciate your willingness to be here, by the way. City Manager.
And thank you, Ruby. Really appreciate that. And Mr. Mayor had a really good conversation with Prosser's former ACO. Just a wonderful guy. And he pointed out some things to me as we talked and sent me some information for clarification. So this is already on within our SMCs. So animals at large, dogs or livestock, the ordinance, it's unlawful for any domestic animal to be at large or off an owner's property without restraint. That's a civil infraction, $250. That's on our books right now. Failure to register a dog or cat, again, that's a $100 fine. Kennel licenses are required. Ordinance, any property housing more than a set number of domestic animals, for example, 4 or more dogs or cats, must obtain a kennel license and comply with zoning and sanitation standards. So that's another $250 fine. Animal cruelty, abuse, and neglect. So those are certainly on our books, and I totally agree with Deputy Mayor Galvan. The question is enforcement, and you know, one of the nuances we talked about is he's bilingual, and that really helped him in Prosser, you know, to navigate. And he talked about really building relationships with people, because you know, you give a civil infraction, people aren't happy about that, right? So he really stressed the education. And some of the notes I want to share with council that we talked about were some of the bullets that he really wanted us to highlight. So improved public safety coordination. And this is sort of his perspective on how we can get better. So Sunnyside animal control officers can be more effectively coordinating with law enforcement during emergencies or dangerous animal situations. Authority and enforcement support. So this is something that he really stressed. Being under the police department enhances the perception, the actual authority, which our ACO is certainly within the police department. Animal control officers allowing for smoother enforcement, working together, 24/7 response, integrating. This integration really allows dispatch to work with them, access to training resources. So animal control staff benefiting from law enforcement training in areas such as de-escalation, report writing, handling aggressive individuals or animals, streamlined communication like sharing radios, unified case management. And it all leads to community trust. And something else he talked about is he potentially could get hired by another jurisdiction. And Chief can speak to this. There's certain commissions that allow him to ticket and enforce more effectively. Chief, can you talk, Mr. Mayor, if you don't mind, if Chief, Chief plugs in.
So what we'd have to create is a limited commission. And I can extend that to them, but I have to have a detailed letter on what sections of the code they want to enforce, and they'll be restricted to those sections of the code, and then it would run through legal. It's the same way we're working on right now with code enforcement. Code enforcement's asked for a limited commission, and I've been asking, okay, what sections of the code do you want to enforce? Luckily, these guys here getting on it pretty quick compared to sat for a long time. But we'd have to do the same thing with an animal control officer. We could extend them a limited commission. And I don't know if legal has any advice on that, but it has to pretty much outline, they want to enforce section 6 of the Sunnyside Municipal Code, which is our animal section. And then they're not able to go write tickets for assault or anything like that. They're restricted to that section, but it does give them the authority to write tickets.
Okay. And I don't know if we want to give time for Commissioner Lindy to comment on what the county is doing or what the county is able to do, or
How can they help us?
or how can they help? Yeah, that's a good one too. So Commissioner Lindy will give you an opportunity. And thank you for being here tonight, sir, and waiting such a long time to.
Yeah, you're welcome. And I thought I might just mention, since there was the conversation during the Law Day presentation, there was a question about the drug courts. And I thought I might mention what we've seen in Yakima County. Our effectiveness rate's probably been about 60 to 70% of people that enter there. And that's typically those that, and we have both a drug court and a DUI court. We've got both of those. And typically when they're charged with an offense, they have to qualify, which typically means that, the substance abuse is the only issue. There's not another criminal issue in addition. Typically what the successful ones often take a couple of years to get through it successfully. Takes a little time for them to decide that it's really what they want to do and they want to make the effort. But I've been to those drug court graduations, and the cool thing is to see people that are so happy that they've got their life back and they've got their families back and they've got a job back. And so it's I'm pleased with what we see. But I will also agree with what Mr. Everett, the attorney, said, that it is expensive. It takes a lot of money to stand it up. We're putting money in there to try to expand that, and so we can provide that for more people. I know that's not why you brought me up, so I'll go to that. As was mentioned earlier, Commissioner Curtis is actually taking the lead on the animal control for the county. But as has been stated, he's gone not only to, I was here at the Sunnyside meeting, but he's been at other city meetings throughout the county. His goal at that point is really kind of inventorying the need city by city, what everybody's facing. The idea is to compile that and then to come to some conclusions about maybe obviously you're talking about citywide solutions, and I'm not going to detract from anything that you choose to do as a city, but it also seems like there's an opportunity for us to do more with less if we can collaborate and do things together. We've seen that work in other places, and I think this is an opportunity as well. I know Commissioner Curtis has planned he scheduled a tour of SCRAPS, which is Spokane County Regional Animal Protection Services Center. So that's a new acronym. And then he has a follow-up meeting with animal stakeholder groups scheduled for the middle of May to review some final recommendations on some Yakima County code updates. I will also tell you as an aside, on my own volition, I've actually had an opportunity to sit down with some leaders at the city of Grandview, and they revealed to me that they actually had a blueprint for an animal shelter. It was way back in 2007, I think. It's a full detailed plan, and they gave me the plan, which is nice. The tough news is that it would cost $700,000 in $2007. So I don't know where that puts us today. But I was also talking with Mr. Brown here a little earlier about the idea of, if we're actually standing a facility, maybe it's something where we can to lean on contributions from a variety of community and citizens to put something together. That might be an approach. I know often when we're looking for money from state or federal government to put something together, often they like to know how much skin we have in the game first, and that's often a stepping stone to getting some participation and funding. I will also tell you that at the meeting that I was here with Mr. Gonzalez and some city council members, we heard from various of the animal welfare people that were here and advocates, and they mentioned some funding sources on the west side maybe. And I will tell you that in the county we actually did have a 2-year grant from PETA that helped us fund an animal control officer a few years back. But when the 2 years expired, the funding expired, we didn't have a way to replace it. So that tells me that there may be some opportunity there. In a recent meeting that I sat with county commissioners statewide, I brought that issue up of, do you see, animal rights groups and others getting involved with funding, and they hadn't had too much luck with that, unfortunately. So I'm not saying that it couldn't happen, but it did discourage me a little bit, that conversation. Anyway, but that's kind of where we're at. It's still an evolving situation, but that's what I can report to you so far.
Thank you, sir. Questions for the commissioner? All right, hearing none, I appreciate your presence here this evening.
Just, Mr. Mayor, if I
Go ahead, Mr. City Manager.
could we call Ruby Medina back up? Because I really want her to talk about some of the adoption networks that she's connected to.
Absolutely, Miss
Some of the other
Medina.
things that she wanted to share. Thank you, Mayor.
You. I just wanted to share, I do have a resource. It's the Benton Franklin Humane Society. Again, they are open to having a contract with us. They have the expertise on dealing with and assessing aggressive dogs, aggressive animals. They know the protocol, they know the procedures. They've been taking dogs already from us. And I've been getting community members to donate the fee that they need to be able to take dogs from us. And they've been able to successfully adopt those dogs out as well. I've also leaned to, and you guys will hear me say this repeatedly, to nonprofit rescues who have also helped to take some of the dogs that I have. Again, I'm taking anywhere between 10 to 15 dogs a week. A week. A week. And a lot of these dogs are abused and neglected. And these dogs are being seen by vet and they're receiving the care that they need. And they're finding appropriate, amazing homes. There was about 2 years ago, there was a hoarding situation here in Sunnyside where there was 48 Malinois, 48. We ended up taking about 40 of them. And I will tell you that 4 of them are TV stars. So they have their own TV shows. The Malinois rescues on a national level assisted with that hoarding situation. But yeah, and then we had a dog named her Maddie. Commissioner Ladon, and she was tied to a tombstone in Outlook. And I ended up rescuing her. And now she's the co-pilot of an engineer and she flies all over the world. So there are success stories out there. And yeah, it does
Yeah.
happen.
Well, I say the city of Sunnyside owes a great deal to volunteers such as yourself in this area. Well, we owe to our volunteers in every area, but right at this point, the animal control is huge, and animal cruelty is something that we all want to prevent. And you are kind of taking point for the city on that, and I appreciate that. And I do want to recognize that. And because you've contacted me multiple times over the years, and I've heard from you and what you're doing, and the fact that you still continue to do it speaks a lot about your character. And so thank you for that. I like the idea of, working with, the Yakima Humane Society is not able to help us other than with 4 dogs a month, and they have to be violent animals. Well, Benton Franklin is another option I think that we can definitely look into and see what the costs are for a contract or something with them. We can definitely look into that. Go ahead, Ms.
I was just curious about you mentioned about the network of adoption networks. Is that more than
That's through the rescues. So the rescues help facilitate that as well as the shelters. Absolutely.
Are they by breed or
No.
just random?
Dog that's in need and the dog that they're able to take, and then they just work with them. All the dogs get spayed, neutered, vetted, chipped, and they're followed for the remaining of their life. So in case they are adopted, the rescues follows them, which is a huge security for these animals. And so, yeah.
Okay, Ms. Hancock.
Yes, Ruby, have you seen council proposed a dog breeding ordinance? And I believe, Jackie, is that on our list for next meeting, for this coming meeting? I know it's on the council request form.
It's just on the future agenda items. Let me double check the status request form.
Because I think there's a developed dog breeding program. It was before I was on council, and it was supposed to come back to us in April, and it hasn't yet. But I would like you to look at that, to see what you think about it, because, you know quite a bit about the animals around this town, so.
I know, and thank you for bringing that up. I know that, and I lean to the support from the other rescues. And I know there was discussions before that was presented, and I'm looking through my text messages that was sent to me from a rescue. But in regards to banning breeds, we have to be very careful because there is an RCW. Let's see, it is RCW 16.08.110, and it's the breed-based regulations. So we have to be very careful. There's certain breeds that we cannot.
Oh, no, you cannot exclude them completely, no.
Absolutely.
But this would be to keep people from breeding
Oh,
inside,
absolutely.
inside the city limits. We
Yes.
can restrict them from having, breeding their dogs.
Yes, and that's one thing too, and you know, that I appreciate about Pablo when he used to work for Prosser. He is instrumental in regards to knowing the RCWs. I mean, when he was running the city of Prosser or the ACO, the city of Prosser, the residents, they knew when Pablo was there that he meant business. When there was there's an example, there was signs posted about missing dogs. And so he followed the RCWs and the ordinances, and you cannot do that. And so he followed up with the people and let them know there are other ways to do this, but you cannot. And if not, you would be, you know, he would be issuing a citation. The other thing too, there are other cities who are submitting ordinances on banning breeding. The other thing too is that we have an IRS, you know, federal law that states anybody who breeds has to have a business license. And that gives the authority to the city of Sunnyside or the cities to enforce that. And again, that's another revenue. And that's another way to regulate as well. There's so many different things, but I do know that Pablo has the expertise and knowledge to be able to apply that to the city.
All right, thank you.
Thank
Other
you.
questions or comments?
Ruby, I remember when we were having that session, you were here, and I think you or another rescuer spoke to, I think it was somewhere in Tri-Cities, one of the cities out there actually implementing a neuter and spay
There was a couple of counties.
requirements.
State, yes, they did pass that. I can get that information to you. And then I know the West Richland and Richland also banned an ordinance where you cannot sell puppies or animals in a parking lot. And I will tell you guys, I just spoke to the manager not too long ago from Tractor Supply. People let me know, but there was a couple of people that came from Wapato, Yakima, Toppenish, and bringing their puppies here to be given away. And it's like, wait a second, you guys are just now overpopulating us even more. And the regulations just need to be there because it's not fair to our city and that's not fair to these animals.
For sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And then,
Go ahead, Vicky, and then I'll follow you.
oh, no, I was just, so I remember, sometime, I don't know if it was last year in 2024, but I think we did something like that, at the, is it the tire or the tire factory, or what is it right here by, Planet Fitness?
Oh, it's Tractor Supply.
Tractor Supply. So our ACO went and took animals there, and I think they were giving them up for adoption. Was that something that could have been a liability for the city? So we don't ever repeat it again?
Absolutely, because when I went there and there was a couple of rescues that went out there, she was promoting dogs that were not spayed or neutered and they were not licensed. And as well as, you know, the contract for the city.
So we do have to be careful with those types of things.
Absolutely.
Ms. Hancock.
And Chief, I need to speak to you again. What are we doing with licensing now? Because I don't think anybody in this town has a cat license.
Or dog.
I don't see cat license in here. I skimmed the municipal code. I didn't see cats addressed, but currently code enforcement is not under, or animal control is not under the police department. So I'm not handling it. What happened is there was 2 code enforcement officers, 1 animal control officers. They eliminated a position because the animal control gal quit. So they didn't have to pink slip anybody. They just moved that assignment under the 2 code enforcement guys, which took it out from under the police department. So I think the breeding thing that you're talking about was supposed to come back. I think the previous community economic development director was working on that. I wasn't involved in it. I don't know. But just from what city manager said tonight, it maybe sounds like he wants to bring a code or a dedicated animal control person back. I don't know. So, but
that would take a budget amendment as well.
No, what actually happened, Mayor, forgive me for cutting you off. We actually codified that and included it in the 25 budget. So originally we thought we had taken it out, but it got budgeted. So when one of our code enforcement officers decided to leave, there was quite a few things that happened without naming names that I think the council knows. Timing wise, So the current code enforcement officer did not ever get trained in animal control issues. That was supposed to happen in March. Yeah, I've had some really good conversations with him, you know, in terms of the alignment with animal control versus the code enforcement. They're both enforcement issues, but the missions are a bit different. And the code enforcement folks that I've talked to, typically they're not super enthusiastic about catching animals because you know, I was listing some of my priorities as I talked to Pablo today. You know, love animals, be an expert in the animal control field, know the SMCs and laws, and really, you know, have an educational spirit. Because I tell you, Pablo has that. It's not confrontational; it's educational, and I think that's why he was so impactful in that field. You know, so in terms of and it was Jackie that identified that. We actually had codified that. So I was kind of excited because obviously we have that open code enforcement position. My preference would be to hire an animal control person because I can say I keep my windows open in my corner office there at City Hall on 9th and Edison, and there's not a day I don't see at least 2 or 3 dogs run by, and you know, I want to go out and adopt them, but you know, the challenge is there's nowhere to take them. You know, our priority is dangerous animals. But my thought is I've been talking to Ruby quite a bit about, you know, just different creative options. We're going to have to get a little creative. I do, in my heart and soul, believe we need to reinstitute that animal control officer. We just have to, because
you're right.
There's too much of a void right now. And then I also think, you know, with someone like Ruby, you know, and that community that loves animals, you know, the connectivity piece to the adoption networks, and I'm going to talk to Quinn about this tomorrow, is, you know, how do we hire someone? And I'm not advocating to hire Ruby, so just for
I was
the
just going to
record,
suggest that we do.
you know, but
get her an application a minute.
Right, but you know, and what I've talked to Ruby about is how can that community create like perhaps their own LLC or 501c3 where they're contracting with the city as the adoption network. You know,
There was a group of individuals of 3 years ago, Ruby, who were talking about that. You had some people where you were working with that were interested, and they reached out to me. They were willing to come in and do some volunteering and help out. Should the city find a facility or a way to be able to house some animals, they were willing to help out with that. So there is interest in the community, and I think that we'd ought to take advantage of that.
And also too, just to let you guys know, I do that for Benton Franklin County as well. I've been moving animals for their shelters. I move animals for the animals that I bring as well as I work with the different ACOs in the Benton Franklin County with their animal controls, and I'm able to move dogs to nonprofit legal organizations. And so I'd like to be able to do that for our city. And I'm already doing it, but you know, with an ACO, because the other thing too is that the liability is huge. You've got people that come in and say, I'm the owner of the animal. 30 days later, 6 days later, we need that protection, especially on a legal level for the animal and for the person who's helping and practicing the Good Samaritan law, because there are some really good people that I lean to as well that helps to foster, but we need that protection.
Yep.
Good. Further questions, Deputy?
Yeah, so Ruby, is there any organization that you know of that I guess the city can contract with and they could come on the weekend and just collect all these dogs and take them back to?
Benton Franklin County Humane Society.
Okay.
And what I like about Benton Franklin Humane Society, because going back to the Yakima Humane Society, when we had that contract, they never honored the contract the last year, because they were supposed to be picking up animals and they were collecting the payment, but they never did. All they said was they can pick up sick, injured, or vicious animals. So they didn't even fulfill that piece of the contract. Right. And so, but you have another Humane Society who's growing as their contracts grow. I've been there, I've seen it. They've had dog runs, they have dog parks, they have personal dog trainers. I mean, the animals are treated very well.
Excellent. All right. Thank you. And this is excellent discussion, and I think it needs to continue. Thank you for moving us this far forward, and look forward to coming to a resolution. Council, we are at 9 p.m., which means that we are at 3 hours, and pursuant to council rules of procedure, and thank you, Jackie, for making sure I see this. Regular council meeting shall not exceed 3 hours in length unless a majority of the council by motion duly approved consents to exceed such limit. And we do have one item left on the agenda, and that is an executive session. And so council, we need to agree.
Towards that?
Yes, it does. I didn't think it did last time either, and I have been corrected. And so we have executive session and it's set for 40 minutes. I think that it might go longer, but council has to approve extending, or we can move the executive session to another time. That's up to council. As Ms. Hancock indicated earlier, this is council's executive session. And so this is council's choice. So what is the desire of council on this item?
Mayor,
Yes, ma'am.
that's only for a regular meeting. The study session doesn't have a limit.
Oh, well, okay. See, I'm awful enthusiastic in following the rules that people tell me. So we can continue. I'm sorry. I take back everything I just said.
Mayor, but before you get into the executive session, would you allow Cuss? He's got a few items that he wants to share with council.
Is it referring to the memorandum? Okay, go ahead, sir.
I wanted to, about 3 weeks ago, we shared that there was a pipe failure at the wastewater treatment plant. And at that meeting, I had estimated that it would be in the 250,000 range. But every day we uncover more and more damaged equipment, and that estimate is now 1.2 million. We've contacted the Public Works Trust Board. The application is due on the 9th, but the maximum amount that we can apply for, qualify for, is $1 million. And they do have the funding available. Our application appears to be where we want it to be to qualify for this money, but we're short about $227,000. We have Department of Ecology that has an emergency program, but that's all loan. Today, I reached out to the engineers and YCDA. We have a meeting scheduled for Wednesday to talk about whether YCDA, through the seed funding program, if they could help us with the 227,000. If that doesn't go through, I did meet with Kelly, and we would have to do some budget line item adjustments to come up with the 227,000, because that's going to be a requirement for us to qualify for the $1 million. The $1 million through the Public Works Board is a 50% grant, so that $1 million goes to 500 our costs and a 20-year payback at 0.8% interest, which is a good amount. But I wanted to share that at the last meeting, but we ran out of time. But this is something that we need to continue, because it's a safety issue at the treatment plant, and we need to get this repaired. So we're making every effort to try to find money out there to reduce our liability for the city, but we need to get this repaired. The other two that I have is well 7. We put it online today. We flushed it. We sampled it. We submitted a water sample. Once that water sample comes back, we'll put this back online, and that'll give us another 1 million gallons of water a day, which will reduce a lot of stress on the employees and the community. The estimate cost for that one was originally 800,000. We'll be all in for 100, so we saved 700,000. The Dayton wall on Crescent and Dayton, that one has been failing for a number of years. It was about ready to come over. It had a big crack on it. That one was estimated at about $225 for repairs. We got it repaired last week for $12,000. So
It looks like it'll
we saved
never
us
fall
money.
over.
Wow.
That's a solid looking wall.
Yeah, that'll be good. So that's all I have.
All right, thank you.
So
Yes, Miss Ripley, you may.
that first item that you brought up about the sewer, I think it was a sewer plant.
Digester pipe.
Is that where the methane gas was leaking? Okay, okay.
Yeah, so it is a big deal.
Yeah.
All right. Miss Hart, you have your hand up?
Well, I'm
or-
just wondering, are you asking for us to for anything tonight as regarding the seed money, or or the loan? Are you asking for direction there? Or
If we're
are
going to
you
vote on
just,
anything, it'll be next week.
I just
okay,
need.
you're just letting us know that that's coming before?
I just need you to know that the number has
Thank you. I was just kind of getting off.
increased
Yeah.
dramatically.
Do we
Okay.
get, let's do it now, kind of attitude there.
All right. If there's no further questions for Cuss, moving on, then going into executive session to evaluate the qualifications of an applicant for public employment or to review the performance of a public employee, however, subject to RCW 42.30.1404. Discussion by a governing body of salaries, wages, and other conditions of employment to be generally applied within the agency shall occur in a meeting open to the public. And when a governing body elects to take final action, hiring, setting salary of an individual employee or class of employees, or discharging or disciplining an employee, that action shall be taken in a meeting open to the public. And we are asking for 40 minutes. At this point, I don't think that action is required. And this is a council meeting, and so I have asked for all staff except for the attorney to make sure that we stay legal. Otherwise, all staff and city manager are excused at this point. So thank you. And Jackie, if you want to stick around and keep us legal, or if you're just going to trust us for time.
It's up to you, whatever you prefer. It's up to you.
Okay, I know I lose track of time very quickly. And even if I set a timer.
I think it took off 15 minutes because you already discussed the first matter, so.
Right, but I'm thinking 40 minutes for this one is going to be a requirement.